still rules. The Jays took advantage of 3 pitches and came away with a hard-fought 4-3 win. Tonight, Boomer David Wells goes for Toronto. Charles Nagy takes to the hill for the Indians. It's the Tribe and Toronto, and it's now on Fox Sports Net, Ohio. And we welcome all of you to downtown Cleveland and Jacobs Field for Fox Sports Net's coverage of the Toronto Blue Jays and the Cleveland Indians tonight. A warm welcome to the ballpark, everyone. I'm John Sanders, along with Rick Manning, and for those of you expecting to see the regular Fox Sports Net crew, we are having some transmission problems. We'll try to get them ironed out and get the regular guys on in just a moment. But in the meantime, let's get set for Game 2 of this series. Toronto winning the ball game last night. And even though the Indians have more wins than the Blue Jays this year, these teams are really pretty similar.
Similar numbers throughout the course of the year. As you look at it, last at-bat wins, Toronto has 15 compared to Cleveland's 13. One-run ball games very similar. And they go down through the East, the Central, interleague play. But the big difference is the runs per ball game. Cleveland averaging about a run more.
And that's why the Indians have won more games. But tonight they'll go against the ace of the Blue Jays, David Wells, and he has really turned his season around.
He certainly has. You look at April and May, he's just a .500 pitcher with an ERA of 6.30, but he's picked it up when the weather has warmed up. June and July, he's 5-1. He's got 2 consecutive complete games, so he is going to be a tough customer.
Well, the weather has warmed up, but the Indians' offense has cooled a bit, with one big exception, Jim Thome.
Jim Thome, over his last 32 ball games, hitting .349. He has raised that batting average 40 points. He's got 7 home runs and 26 RBIs.
Jays trying to make it 2 straight and 4 out of 5 over the Tribe this year. Here is the Toyota key to victory for tonight.
Support your starter. The Indians only 12 runs in their last 4 games. The starters have been doing a fine job with a .233 earned run average. After David Wells, it's not going to get any easier for the weekend against the Yankees.
It is baseball tonight on Fox Sports Net and Fox Sports Net Ohio, and we're going to find out if Charles Nagy can get a grip on this Toronto offense and maybe slow down the celebrations of David Wells. It's baseball from Cleveland after the
Blue Jays starter David Wells. We send our thanks to John Sanders and Rick Manning of Fox Sports Net Ohio. Due to some technical problems, we were unable to bring you our on-camera open. So John and Rick set up the game for you. And now we will bring you the play-by-play and the color analysis. There is Charles Nagy, who will start tonight for the Cleveland Indians. So Jeff, Wells, and Nagy, they've both started all-star games. They've both pitched in the World Series, and they lead their respective clubs in victories.
Kenny, they're both winners. That's the thing you think about. They're different type of pitchers. David Wells is a power pitcher. Charles Nagy's a finesse type of pitcher. He's a sinker baller, mixes breaking stuff in. He's got to keep the ball down. But they're both winners, and their ball clubs can count on them. Even though at this stage of the season, both pitchers have elevated ERAs, that doesn't mean anything with these 2 ball clubs because they can power behind them offensively. But when you have guys that can win the way they can win, and that'll give you an idea why Toronto, when you see what David Wells has done to anchor this staff, hard-throwing staff, Toronto on the Red Sox.
Only 1 game out in the American League wild card race. The Blue Jays, the hottest team in baseball. They've won 5 in a row. They swept Atlanta in their last series. They beat the Indians here last night 4-3. 25-9 are the Blue Jays since June the 12th.
Well, there's a reason for that. They have good, hard-throwing young kids. They've got a good bullpen, and they're big. You can't believe how big their pitchers are. But they are very balanced, and Jim Fregosi has really done a nice job blending this team together. They're young. They can run. They hit with power. Lately, they've been winning their ball games with big home runs to finish the game off. Of course, last night, Delgado hit one the other way to eventually win the game for the Blue Jays. But when they got Tony Batista from the Arizona Diamondbacks, when they had a major need in the middle, it changed this team around because now Homer Bush could go to second base where he was supposed to be. Batista has good pop in his bat, has done a heck of a job defensively. So they are a very solid ball club. That's why the Blue Jays are really playing well. They're not doing it with mirrors. They're doing it with good execution.
And on the other side, Mike Hargrove's Cleveland Indians with the best record in baseball, 58 wins, 1 more than the Braves, only 36 losses. But since the All-Star break, they're 2-5, and over the long haul, just 12-15 in their last 27 games.
Well, I think as good as the Indians have been over the years, a lot of times you think they're supposed to go undefeated. I used to say that about the Braves. I thought a lot of the fans figured the Braves are so good they should go undefeated. Mike Hargrove's team is banged up. Travis Fryman is out, the all-star third baseman. Their catcher, Sandy Alomar, is out, and that hurts because there's an anger to your leadership and to
victories behind only Pedro Martinez and Mike Mussina.
When you look at Nagy and you see his numbers, the thing that jumps out, almost 5 earned run average, but the guy gets things done. When you see more hits than innings pitched by that many, 20 more hits than innings pitched, but look at the walks are down. The guy is a sinker baller. He makes them hit the ball on the ground when he's effective, and he's got a superb defense behind him. They have some defensive infield. And Charles Nagy is a winner. There are times that he gets banged around, but he'll keep his team in a game.
Nagy suffered the loss in his last start on Saturday in Pittsburgh. He went 8 days between starts due to the All-Star break. He's 10-2 in his last 12 starts. He's the winningest starter on the Indian staff. And there is the defense, ranked 5th in the American League. Einar Diaz replacing Sandy Alomar Jr. behind the plate. Tommy, Roberto Alomar Vizquel, and Enrique Wilson for the injured Travis Fryman. Sexton Lofton, Alex Ramirez in the outfield. Rocky Road behind the plate tonight. John Hirschbeck, who has been in the news the last couple of days. The first base umpire, crew chief Durwood Merrill, working second base, and Mike Everett down at third. This is the finale of a 2-game set. Blue Jays winning last night 4-3. All 4 of their runs coming on home runs. They hit 3. 9 homers in their last 3 games. And Shannon Stewart, who leads the American League with 30 stolen bases, will lead things off for the Blue Jays against Charles Nagy. Stewart working on a 7-game hitting streak. He was 1 for 4 last night. Hot, humid evening in Cleveland. And we are underway as Stewart takes ball 1.
You know, it's amazing when you see the kind of blend that you get in the lineup with the Blue Jays, leading off with a guy like Shannon Stewart. He's got some pop in his bat. He can fly, puts the ball in play.
Fly ball right field. Alex Ramirez had some trouble with the sun. Initially took a couple of steps in and then faded back to make the catch.
Well, we were talking about Shannon Stewart, and he's the kind of guy, if you get a guy that can run. Now, both these teams have leadoff hitters that can run. Stewart, obviously, for the Blue Jays, and Kenny Lofton for the Indians. When you get guys at the front end of the order can run, you can make things happen, and you don't have to hit for big power if you have people who can make little things happen.
Here's Willie Green, swings at the first pitch, and grounds out to the second baseman, Roberto Alomar, quickly 2 away. Once again, in case you've just joined us, we are experiencing some technical problems here in Cleveland, so the pictures you see are from Fox Sportsnet Ohio, and their broadcasters John Sanders and Rick Manning brought you the open to the telecast. This is Kenny Albert along with Jeff Torborg. Sean Green steps in. One of the biggest stories in baseball over the last couple of weeks. Green went to the All-Star game in Boston, working on a 19-game hitting streak. Here's Alomar once again. 3 up, 3 down in the top of the first for Charles Nagy. The umpires in between innings. Now, when we copy down the Indians lineup from their clubhouse wall, the lineup card indicated that Manny Ramirez was the DH and Alex Ramirez would be in right field, and we called Alex Ramirez on the catch on the fly ball by Stewart as we check out the Indians batting order. And it was Manny Ramirez who went out to right field, and now Jim Fregosi, the Blue Jays manager, out to chat with the umpires.
I think Jim Fregosi found out the same thing. I think they found out that the wrong Ramirez is playing right field, as is listed on the lineup card. Now you're looking at David Wells. He's not worried about who the heck he faces. He's just worried about throwing strikes, and that's what he does. Been hot lately. You can see very few walks, 133 and 2/3 innings, only 36 walks. Indians are going to lose, I think, one of the Ramirez's. And I think if you have a DH listed and he takes the field, I think Manny Ramirez will probably stay in the lineup and they'll lose Alex Ramirez. But this will happen. This always worried me as a manager. I would look over that lineup card 2 or 3 times before on the wall. I would line it up with the lineup card I took to the out to the umpires, and you can see how frustrated Mike Hargrove is, because I think he realized that they made a mistake and it's going to cost him a player, I would think.
And I wonder if either Manny or Alex looked quickly, saw the last name Ramirez, and assumed that Manny was out in right field. Alex has DH this year. He's also started in the outfield for the Indians, and this obviously has caused a problem. 2 players with the same last name. Quick glance at the lineup card. In fact, the printed roster, which is distributed here in the press box, had it the other way, with Manny in right field and Alex as the DH, but the original roster we scribbled down had Alex in right field and Manny as the designated hitter, and the umpires continuing to discuss the situation. The crowd probably without an idea of what is taking place, getting a bit restless, and Mike Hargrove knows what happened. So does Jim Fregosi.
And Mike Hargrove is very frustrated. Can you imagine if he ends up losing a guy with 101 RBIs and Manny Ramirez? You hate to lose anybody. It's a mistake, and a lot of times the manager doesn't put the lineup card up on the wall. The manager makes out the lineup card in a small set of carbon copy lineups, and then a coach will put the lineup on the wall. Remember, Manny Ramirez has played right field so much that obviously every night he thinks he's going to right field, and with the 2 names being the same, you can see how easily it could happen. It's a shame. It's a technicality, but unfortunately on these technicalities, they have to go by the rules. Somebody's not trying to fool somebody else in this situation. It's just a mistake.
Manny has not DH'd this year. In all 85 games he's played in, he has been the starting right fielder as we check out the Blue Jays defense. Now, Alex Ramirez has started as the DH 4 times and the left fielder once. So you would figure that Manny would be in right, Alex would be the DH. And here we see the lineup card in the dugout, and Manny in the 4 spot listed as the DH, and Alex listed as the right fielder.
Yeah, that's very interesting. As you see, Manny is right in the middle, and Alex is down here. And I think what happens, normally if you have a DH and you put him in the game, which so often happens, then the pitcher's got to hit. That's what the problem is here. If you lose your DH, and that's what
7 spot.
Yeah.
No official announcement as of yet. As Kenny Lofton steps in following the delay and grounds out to the shortstop, Tony Batista. 1 away.
We talked about Batista, Tony Batista, coming over to the Toronto Blue Jays in a deal with John Frascatore for Dan Plesac, the left-handed relief pitcher. And a day after Batista gets here, Alex Gonzalez, the starting shortstop for the Blue Jays, undergoes surgery. So it was a heck of a move by the Blue Jays to get an everyday shortstop.
And Batista has been tremendous both in the field and at the plate. Omar Vizquel takes strike 1 from David Wells. Vizquel only 3 for 32 lifetime against Wells, switch hitter, batting right-handed, batting .324 this season. And Vizquel falls behind, no balls, 2 strikes.
Well, there's that real good curveball. David Wells has a great curveball. He throws strikes. His fastball is sneaky. He gets it up sometimes to 92, 93, 94, depending on what fastball he throws.
Bounce foul down the left field line, so the count remains 0-2.
But there was another curveball. David Wells has a real good downer-biting curveball. So he sets up his pitches very well. Sometimes he'll set up his fastball, meaning he'll throw a lot of curveballs and then sneak the fastball by you. Then there are other times he gets ahead with a fastball and then comes back with a breaking ball. He knows how to pitch.
Here's the 0-2 from Wells, high and tight. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Wells 9-3 lifetime in the regular season against the Indians. He also beat Cleveland twice in the playoffs last year with the New York Yankees. And there's a base hit into left field. Only the 4th career hit for Vizquel against Wells in 33 at-bats.
Well, Vizquel saw a lot of breaking balls in that at-bat, and that last one was a hanger. It was not a good biter. You can see on the replay, here it is right in the middle of the plate, and Vizquel stays back on it and hits it in the hole at third base. Wells is the type of pitcher that you can go up there as a hitter and try to jump the first pitch. You might not worry about going deep in the count because he throws the strike.
So 1 out, Vizquel the runner on first for Roberto Alomar. Base hit up the middle. Wide turn by Vizquel, and he just gets back in.
Whoa, this was close. I'll tell you what, that might have gone either way. Derwin Merrill jumped right on the plate and called it. Jose Cruz Jr. is a tremendous athlete, and he has a good arm playing center field. This is a low sinking fastball that Robbie Alomar hits it back to the middle and hits it hard. And you can see the aggressive turn at second base by Omar Vizquel. Boy, that was really close. Throw in behind him.
So runners on first and second. And the center of controversy steps in, Manny Ramirez, who obviously will remain in the game in right field. Ramirez came to the plate in the 9th inning last night with the bases loaded. And the Indians trailing by a run, 1 out. And he grounded into a game-ending double play.
Well, they went after the first pitch from Billy Koch. Now, Billy Koch, their reliever, can throw the ball 100 miles an hour or more. But he started Ramirez off with a slider after they Jim Fregosi intentionally walked Robbie Alomar.
Vizquel the runner on second. Alomar on at first. Ramirez 0 for 4 last night, batting .327. 26 home runs, 101 RBIs. Fouled off the catcher Fletcher, 1-1.
100 RBIs, 101 RBIs. Last year at the All-Star break, Juan Gonzalez had 101 RBIs at the break. And the second part of his season, I think he had 58 the rest of the way, or I believe he had 58 the rest of the way. But this is an incredible amount. And when you take a look
drove in 145 last year. The 1-1 off-speed pitch misses. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Well, we talked about David Wells being a power pitcher. He doesn't necessarily have to power the ball because he can change speed. He throws 2 fastballs. One's a 2-seam sinker. One's a 4-seam riding fastball. And you can see Charles Nagy sitting on the bench. He's now penciled in as part of the lineup with the faux pas in the lineup card.
And Nagy will bat 7th. Strike call, 2-2 on Ramirez. In case you're wondering, Nagy 0 for 4 at the plate this season.
Well, I can bet, and you shouldn't be talking about that around a baseball game, but you can be sure that Jim Thome's not going to get much to hit with Nagy hitting behind him in the lineup.
Nagy 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. We should add. 1 out, runners on first and second. And Wells again steps off, look towards second. Vizquel with 20 steals. Roberto Alomar 23.
Well, that's what the Blue Jays are trying to do. Keep the base runners close, especially Vizquel at second base, because third base is, I'm not going to say it's an easy base to steal, but some good base runners say it's easier to steal than second base, especially off a left-handed pitcher.
Full count on Ramirez with Richie Sexson waiting on deck.
Well, I started to say earlier about David Wells. You think of him as a power pitcher because he can throw the ball in the low 90s, but he changes speed so much. He can throw a slow curveball. He can throw a cut fastball. It's like a slider. He can throw in on hitters. He can throw a changeup to right hitters, and he'll throw them at any time. He's got great confidence in his ability.
Runners go. Ground ball to the shortstop, Batista. Time for only 1 as the runners were on the move. 2 outs with runners on second and third.
Well, again, that's what speed can do for you. You might not be running these guys if they weren't able to run real well, especially with a power hitter up there. And the fact that Vizquel and Alomar can run so well, Mike Hargrove was able to put him in motion, and that kept them out of a double play. Now it'll be interesting to see how they pitch here. You got Richie Sexson, a right-handed hitter up, with Jim Thome, a left-handed hitter on deck. They got an open base at first base. The veteran Wells might pitch just very carefully to Sexson. Richie Sexson, even though his batting average is only .240, has 15 home runs.
And if you check the career numbers, Thome only 2 for 18 against Wells with 5 strikeouts.
Thome has had some trouble with left-handers throughout his career, and David Wells is one of the toughest left-handers in the game.
Second and third, 2 outs, 0-1 on Sexson. Foul back, no balls, 2 strikes.
Well, you can see what David Wells, Darren Fletcher are trying to do with Richie Sexson. Richie Sexson's a great big kid. 6'7", tall, lean, long arms. The theory is if you have a guy who's big and tall with long arms, you want to pitch the ball in on his hands because he can't get, his arms are so long, he can't get the head of the bat out on the ball. It's way inside. Those first 2 pitches, David Wells threw to Richie Sexson, were inside.
Sexson facing Wells for the first time. 2 outs, 2 on. The 0-2, he strikes him out with the off-speed pitch. First strikeout for Wells. He allows 2 base hits in the bottom of the first, and the Indians strand 2. Back in Cleveland, Kenny Albert with Jeff Torborg. And Jeff, they have just made the announcement here in the press box regarding the Ramirez lineup card situation. Manny was supposed to be the DH, but he took the field top of the first inning, so he remains in the game as the right fielder. And Charles Nagy will bat 7th, so Alex Ramirez out.
Well, that's one of those things as a manager you hate to have happen because it's going to be hashed up. You know, they're going to talk about it, and you're going to hear it over and over, and it's embarrassing.
Base hit into right center. Carlos Delgado extends his hitting streak to 12 games on the first pitch here in the second inning after the Blue Jays went down in order in the first.
Well, Delgado is a guy who's one of their best hitters, and he struggled in the early part of the year. In fact, there were times he was saying, I know I'm letting the club down, and it was really affecting him. Well, the guy who's stepping in the box right now, Tony Fernandez, really picked this club up, period. He was leading the American League in hitting for most of the first half of the season.
Fernandez, second in the American League, batting .359. His average was up as high as .410 earlier this season. The former Indian spent the 1997 season here in Cleveland. One and one on Fernandez. Delgado, the runner on first with nobody out in the Blue Jays second. Line shot foul down the right field line. Now 1-2. There you see the American League batting leaders. Fernandez behind only Jeter. 11 points ahead of Palmeiro and Garciaparra.
He's had a great start this year, and he's really a special guy. He played for me when I managed the Mets, and I was very impressed with him as a man. He has his own workout regimen. You wouldn't realize it. To look at him, he looks like he's slight. He is really put together, and he has had a terrific career. And he's had big numbers offensively, never really big power numbers, but numbers where he made a lot of things happen for the ball club, and he has really picked this club up this year.
Line drive knocked down by Thome. No throw from Alomar. So an infield hit for Fernandez. And the Blue Jays with two men on, nobody out.
Well, this was a rocket. Now you can see the sun possibly is in Thome's eyes. You can see this ball that Tony Fernandez just lays the bat on this ball, and Thome standing in the bright sunlight. And if somebody says you can lose a ground ball in the sun, how could that be? It's impossible. If the glare of the light is just enough in your face, and somebody hits a ball real hard, you don't see it well. And that ball just got on Thome in a hurry.
So first and second, nobody out. Darren Fletcher fouls the first pitch back to the screen, 0-1. Fletcher hit a grand slam on Tuesday against the Braves, batting .299. He missed most of the month of May with an eye injury, but came back in June and hit 7 home runs.
Kenny, when you and I did a game on a Thursday night on Fox Sports Net Baseball Thursday up in Toronto, we were talking to Darren Fletcher, and he said he had just come back from getting hit in the eye.
Base hit down the right field line. Here comes Delgado around third. Fernandez holds. Fletcher in with a stand-up double, and the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
Well, what I was starting to say was when we talked to Darren Fletcher, he had taken a ball off the batting cage. It ricocheted off the batting cage, hit him in his eye. He couldn't see. And when he came back, he felt like he was underwater. He could not see, and they decided that they were going to give him one contact for that eye. And he didn't know how it was going to work. About 3 nights later, he had 2 home runs in one game. Obviously, that contact seemed to work.
And it still works. So 1 run in for the Blue Jays here in the second. Runners on second and third. Nobody out for Tony Batista. He mentioned earlier, came over in the trade from Arizona. 11 home runs on the season, replacing the injured Alex Gonzalez, out for the year with a shoulder injury. And where would the Blue Jays be without Batista?
Wow, I don't know. You know, he has the most unique hitting stance. I think you see some exaggerated stances. You remember Andres Galarraga had that wide open stance, but he didn't hold his hands like this. Take a look at Batista. He almost has both heels on the back line of the batter's box, and he has the bat in front of his face, and then he slowly turns to get into position. Look at this stance. This is really different.
1-2 on Batista.
But he can get the bat in position. You know, so many different styles of hitting. You get to a certain position before you hit, and that's style. But then when you get to what you call a launch position and your foot hits down, in order to be successful, everybody gets to that point about the same time. At least the good ones do.
Bounced off the glove of Nagy. Only one play for Vizquel as Fernandez comes home. And the Blue Jays now lead 2-0. RBI number 27 for Batista.
Sometimes as a manager, and you're the defensive manager, you would rather have the opposition hit a ball hard at somebody. This was one of those high choppers that Nagy deflected, and there's not much you can do about it. Ball were hit hard, maybe you have a play at the guy at the plate.
One out, Fletcher the runner on second for Jose Cruz Jr., who takes strike one. Switch hitter batting left-handed against Nagy. 10 for his last 25. Cruz came up with Seattle. Traded to the Blue Jays 2 years ago. Had that terrific rookie season. And then he was sent down to the minors last year.
He really has seemed to struggle ever since he's been with Toronto. At times he's gotten hot. He's a very talented young player.
Ground ball to the right side. Alomar over to Thome, 2 away. And Fletcher moves to third.
But this is a very difficult game to play. I don't care how good a talent you are. The thing that very often gets in the way is adjustments mentally. When you're traded from the first team that you were signed by and nurtured by, it sometimes shakes your roots, and you have to go and learn a whole new team, whole new set of teammates, and that maybe affected Jose Jr. He is a very talented player. Obviously, his father was a tremendous player, too, for so many years with Houston.
Here's a guy who was traded along with David Wells and Graham Lloyd from the Yankees to the Blue Jays. Homer Bush, who won a World Championship ring with the Yankees a year ago. One ball, one strike.
One of the reasons the Yankees are a little bit different looking club right now is they don't have the same bench that they had last year. And Homer Bush and Darryl Strawberry and Tim Raines are very important parts of that bench. When you see that Homer Bush has 20 stolen bases and 22 attempts, tells you that he can make things happen on the bases. He was that kind of luxury that Joe Torre had last year that could pinch run, steal you a base, and yet play in the middle infield.
Two outs, 1 and 2 on Bush. And a base hit into right field, driving in the Blue Jays' third run of the inning as Fletcher comes across. RBI number 27 for Bush on a 1-2 pitch from Nagy. 3-0 Toronto.
Well, Homer Bush can swing the bat, and that was a very good at bat. He came into this game hitting .288, but he was down in the count, and he stayed with this pitch. Now, it was not a pitch that Charlie Nagy really was proud of, I don't think. It was in the middle of the plate. He was trying to get the ball low and away where the first two breaking balls were, and he left that in the middle. But you really have to think about the hitter doing a good job staying on the ball, and that's what Homer Bush did.
3 runs on 4 hits this inning. There goes Bush, and the throw deflects off the glove of Alomar into center field. 21st stolen base for Homer Bush. He is 8th in the American League in steals, and he's played only 64 games.
Now, this is one of those games that's not off to a very good start for the Indians. First of all, you have the problem with a lineup card. Then you have an inning like this that was prolonged by a shot actually hit at Jim Thome that I think probably because of the sun it affected him, but it kept the inning going. When you've got a good offensive team like Toronto, you can't give them an extra out in an inning.
Nagy in trouble early for the second consecutive start as Shannon Stewart steps in. Einar Diaz out to chat with Nagy. In his last start on Saturday in Pittsburgh, a 13-10 loss, Nagy allowed 7 runs, 4 earned, 10 hits in only 4 innings.
Now that'll happen to Charlie. That'll happen to any pitcher, but especially the type of pitcher Charlie Nagy is. He's a sinker baller who's got to keep the ball down in the zone. And if he can set it up with a good low sinker ball, then everything else works. If he's not getting the sinker ball down, then he's going to have trouble.
Stewart, ground ball to the left side. Wilson across. And that will do it for the Blue Jays in the second, but they score 3 runs on 4 hits and lead the Indians 3-0. Well, Sean Nagy heading to the bat rack. In case you joined us late, Ron Ramirez ran out to right field in the first inning. Manny Ramirez was supposed to be the DH. Alex Ramirez was set to play right, but Manny went out, eliminating the DH spot. And Charles Nagy, who was 1 of 14 lifetime at the plate, will bat second in this second inning. Jim Thome will lead off against David Wells, who allowed 2 base runners in the first inning. And now the Blue Jays holding a 3-0 lead. We apologize to the viewers who have put up with our technical problems, Jeff, over the first inning and a half, but everything is back to normal. And thanks again to Fox Sports Net Ohio for their cooperation. 0-2 on Thome.
We talked about the situation now with Nagy hitting behind Thome. Now David Wells, who has always been tough on Thome anyway, is not going to give him anything that he could crush and really hurt him, I would think, especially knowing that Nagy's on deck.
And Thome is called out on strikes by Rocky Rowe. Second consecutive strikeout for David Wells. And the fans here at Jacobs Field probably wondering, what the heck is Charles Nagy doing stepping up to the plate, unless they're listening to the radio. Interleague play is over. Yet Nagy will bat here against Wells. Well, that is Randall Cunningham, the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. We will chat with Chris Myers on Going Deep Sunday at 9 on Fox Sports Net. 0-1 on Nagy, 0 for 4 with a strikeout, with 4 strikeouts this year, 1 for 14 lifetime at the plate.
Well, to add to the problem that you have is Nagy hits left-handed trying to face David Wells, and David Wells just struck out Jim Thome on a nasty sidearm breaking ball, and I don't think Nagy has a chance to even foul the ball if David Wells does that to him. Well, that was over the top, and he did lay the bat on it. The fans cheer. I don't know if they're cheering the fact that Nagy fouled it or the fan made a great catch.
I think they're cheering Nagy.
You know, we just had a note that Charles Nagy is the only Indian pitcher to bat in an American League game since the DH began, since Jim Kern did in 1978. You know, the dumb manager was here in 78.
I think he's here tonight.
Yours truly, yes.
Here's the 0-2. Nagy gets a piece of another pitch from Wells and fouls it off down the left field line.
Well, I did qualify about Nagy fouling the ball by saying if David Wells dropped down sidearm into it, then he would foul it. Well, he hasn't done that yet.
And the crowd continues to cheer Nagy for fouling off 2 pitches from Wells. Here's the 0-2. Ball 1, 1-2.
Now he's still coming over the top. He's not going to make him mad and throw it on sidearm unless he really has to.
One out, bottom of the second inning. 1-2 on Nagy. Now 2-2.
These fans are really into this. When do you ever hear fans get into it this much with a pitcher hitting, especially in Cleveland? Haven't seen it in so long here, I don't think.
A third
back. So Nagy was behind 0-2. Since then, he's fouled off 3 and taken 2 balls. Nagy hanging in there. And finally, he goes down on strikes and receives a standing ovation from the Jacobs Field crowd. Well, some of them are sitting, some standing. Third consecutive strikeout for Wells. 2 down in the second as third baseman Enrique Wilson steps in. Wilson replacing Travis Fryman out with the right knee injury. Wilson batting .295.
Yeah, I was just wondering if with the Ramirez problem that they had in right field, if that ball hadn't been hit to Manny, whether they got the inning in without anybody noticing that he was the wrong one out there.
Ramirez caught the first out of the game, the fly ball to right off the bat of Shannon Stewart. And at that point, there's Alex Ramirez. At that point, Blue Jays manager Jim Fregosi checked his lineup card, and an unwanted evening off for Alex Ramirez. Here's the 1-2 to Wilson. Base hit left field. A 2-out single, third hit of the game for the Indians.
This is a breaking ball that David Wells we were talking about. Has a big slow curveball. That's what that was. He's got 2 types of fastballs. He's got a 2-seamer that he may sink. He throws it pretty hard. Right on 89, 90 miles an hour, 91 miles an hour. And then the 4-seamer is the one he'll ride up in the zone. He'll try to really gun it up there after he's shown a lot of things down. He throws a real tight slider, and he's got very good command. He comes right at hitters. His problem normally is not command.
Wells finished third in the American League Cy Young Award voting a year ago. He went 18-4 with the Yankees, including a perfect game in May against the Minnesota Twins. 1 ball, no strikes the count on Indians catcher Einar Diaz. Diaz batting .272. He had 2 hits last night. Strike called, 1-1.
You know, when you look at a backup player as such as Diaz trying to get a chance to play, finally getting a chance to play, I should say, at the expense of a bad knee for Sandy Alomar, the #1 All-Star catcher, you think, well, now when Sandy comes back, this team will be stronger because Diaz now has gotten his feet wet at the major league level and done a good job. So sometimes through injuries, you find out that your ball club becomes stronger when you get back to people that have been hurt because of the experience that you've given some of the guys that never played the major league level before. And then on top of that, the guys that have been hurt seem to be rested in the latter part of the season.
With Alomar out, as Diaz takes strike 2, Cleveland's new backup catcher is Pat Borders, who was the World Series most valuable player with the Blue Jays back in 1992.
Pat Borders again with all that experience and brought him back from AAA. He was with the Indians last year. They are feeling that Sandy Alomar is going to come back in the near future. They're going to have him catch a simulated game at Yankee Stadium for Steve Parsay, who's also in the DL, one of their bullpenners who've been off to a great start. Sandy has had a creaky knee, had surgery, and he's gone and had some rehab, and twice he's got this feeling, almost like a nerve electrical shock to his knee, but the doctors seem to think he's going to be okay.
Expected back after August 1st. Bounce to Fernandez at third, goes to second, and they get the force. 2 innings complete from Jacobs Field. Blue Jays leading the Indians 3-0. Baseball Thursday on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Fram Filters. Pay a little more now or pay a lot later. Cleveland, 81-degree evening. And the Indians, who have lost 5 of their last 7, trail the Blue Jays 3-0 as we move to the third. Toronto scoring 3 runs on 4 hits against Charles Nagy in the second inning. Willie Green, Sean Green, and Carlos Delgado for the Blue Jays here in the third. Willie Green bounced to second his first time up and takes strike 1. Green put up huge numbers for the Reds 2 years ago. Slumped last year. He was traded to the Orioles for Jeffrey Hammonds. Now playing for his 3rd team in 2 years.
One of the holes it looks like in this lineup for the Toronto Blue Jays is the DH role. And of course, who did they have there last year but Jose Canseco, who had a tremendous year for them. But it's almost a platoon situation. Craig Drabek does a lot of DHing, and how many times do you see a 5'6" guy DH? He puts the ball in play. He's a good player. But that's not the role you normally see, or the type of hitter you see in the DH role.
At the All-Star break, Blue Jay designated hitters had 7 home runs, 33 RBIs. Jose Canseco, who left the Blue Jays for the Devil Rays, had 31 home runs.
Yes.
Here's the 2-2 from Nagy. Off-speed pitch. Bounce to Toby. Nagy covering. 1 away. Green now 0 for 2. Well, the John Deere Classic from the Oakwood Country Club in Coal Valley, Illinois comes your way on Fox Sports Net tomorrow with second round coverage beginning at 4 Eastern as Steve Jones looks to defend his title, and a 3-way tie atop the leaderboard after the first round of the John Deere Classic from Coal Valley, Illinois. 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific tomorrow on Fox Sports Net. Check local listings. Sean Green grounded out to Alomar at second in his first at bat. 19-game hitting streak as he takes strike 1. He is tied for the American League lead in total bases. He's first in slugging percentage, 3rd in home runs behind only Canseco and Ken Griffey Jr.
This kid really came of age last year, and it was really incredible what he did last year. But this year's numbers are incredible as well. And he's only halfway there, just past halfway in the season.
He joined the 30-30 club last year, only the 9th American Leaguer to do so.
How about this? Those are pretty nice rankings. And remember, he missed part of the season. He had a broken wrist, having gotten hit by a pitch. He was out when he first came back. He didn't swing well at all. Very talented kid. He's got a short stroke. He's tall and thin, but he's got this little short stroke. It's not a big, long stroke. And we've always talked about left-handers having a prettier swing than right-handers, but he can get the bat from right where his hands are down to the low part of that strike zone quickly.
Bounce to Roberto Alomar. 2 out in the Blue Jays third.
Charles Nagy's a guy that we've talked about. He's a winner. He has troubles at times, and he doesn't keep that sinking fastball down. He throws a slurve. That's that big half slider, half curveball type of thing, and a little sharp slider, which really is like a cutter. But technically, if you were to label him, he's a finesse pitcher. It means that he has got to throw the ball where he wants it, or he's going to get banged around.
He got banged around in the second inning. And now Carlos Delgado steps in. Delgado led off the second with a single to right center. Came around to score the Blue Jays' first run. He extended his hitting streak to 12 games. He has 8 home runs in the last 17. 1-1. Last night, 9th inning. Game tied at 3. Delgado with the 3rd Blue Jays home run of the game. And this one, the game winner. As the Blue Jays took the first of this 2-game set, 4-3.
Well, watching that shot tells you how strong this young man is. He hit the ball the other way, and he hardly did anything but flick his hands at it with extension. At 6'3", 225, he is really strong.
Now 3-1 on Delgado. Blue Jays tied with Atlanta and Pittsburgh most home runs this month. And Green and Delgado have 8 apiece. Ground ball out of the mark. 1-2 inning for Travis Nagy. As we get to the bottom of the third, Blue Jays 3 and the Indians nothing. Welcome back to Fox Sportsnet Baseball Thursday from Cleveland, Ohio. Kenny Albert along with Jeff Torborg. Toronto Blue Jays looking for their 6th consecutive game. There's manager Jim Fregosi on the left and Mike Hargrove, Indian skipper, on the right. And the Blue Jays leading 3-0. 5 consecutive wins for Toronto, 16-4 in their last 20 games as Kenny Lofton steps in. Lofton bounced to short in the first inning, and he takes ball 1 from David Wells.
Well, we were talking about the Indians having kind of a dead spell. They've got several key members out and injured, but what has happened is they've stopped at the front end of the order. Kenny Lofton has been struggling a little bit, hasn't stolen many bases, hasn't been the catalyst at the front end of the order, and that happens. There are certain times guys get a little tired, or the pitchers make good pitches on them, or they might be hitting the ball right at somebody, but they're not safely on base. The Indians are a team that can really generate some offense when they get clicking.
Indians lead the American League in hits and runs batted in on-base percentage, in batting average.
Talking about what they can do, and there are times when good pitching will just shut down the good hitting. You've heard that so many times, but even the best of teams will struggle.
Indians went 2-4 in their recent road trip to Pittsburgh and Houston, including a season-long 4 consecutive losses, and they dropped the opening game of this series last night.
They're having a crazy road trip too. They went to Pittsburgh first, as you mentioned, then to Houston. Now they come home for 2 games. They got here at 4:30 in the morning, the day before, or yesterday morning. Now they go to the Yankee Stadium for 3. Come back here, come right back, play 6 games in 7 days, and then go on another long road trip. And that catches up to any ball club. Even they obviously have the best record in baseball. After that, when you listen to some of the cross-country road trips, they go to Boston for 3, to Tampa Bay. No off day, they go out to Anaheim and turn around and come back. Come back for 6 games and then go back to Seattle and Oakland. I mean, there's some frequent flyer miles there.
The 2-2 to Lofton.
Kenny Lofton is at his best when he fights left-handers off. I still picture in my mind some of the battles he had with Randy Johnson, especially in the postseason. He looks bad at times on certain balls from left-handers, and other times he just puts the ball right in play, shoots it to left field, but he really is one of the key catalysts to the front end of the order for this Indian ball club. He's got to be on the base to make things happen.
Punch this one up to the left side. Will it be playable? No. Good try by Fernandez. Lofton stays alive.
Even though the railings are padded down there, if you hit the railing on a dead run and jump in, you don't hit it just right, you can really get hurt. And what can really hurt you, see the padding, what can hurt you is if the fans are going for the ball, they're not worrying about where the fielder is, and they'll elbow you or poke you in the eye.
Bautista from short, quick throw, and Lofton is now 0 for 2.
We talked about Tony Bautista. There had been talk that Bautista was just an offensive shortstop, that he struggled defensively. Well, he knew who was running, and Kenny Lofton flying out of that left-handed batter's box. He took that ground ball and just gobbled it up and got the ball off. As soon as he got it up off the ground, he had it on the way to first base. And he has done a terrific job defensively for the Blue Jays in the middle of their defense.
Here's Omar Vizquel, who singled his first time up. How about that play Vizquel made in the All-Star game?
You know, it's almost routine for him. He makes these unbelievable plays. You can look and say, oh, I've seen him do that a couple times before. You've never seen anybody else do it, but you've seen him do it a couple times before.
Selected as the third shortstop behind Garciaparra and Jeter by American League manager Joe Torre. And Omar said this year's selection actually meant more to him than last year's because his old manager, Mike Hargrove, picked him for the All-Star team last year. He said the fact that another manager added him to the team, it meant even more this season.
It's interesting, yeah.
Joe Torre doesn't see him every day.
Yeah, that's true, but it's amazing when you think about the shortstops in the American League. Alex Rodriguez doesn't make an All-Star team. That's incredible. That shows the talent level.
Rodriguez, even with the time he spent on the DL in April, still had comparable stats.
I know it. It's incredible. Well, this kid is some player. He first came up with Seattle. We knew he was good defensively, but he had a real weak bat when he first began. But he's won 2 games with home runs this year.
He has only 3 home runs. 2 were game winners. In fact, the only other major leaguers who have won 2 games with home runs this season are Matt Stairs and a fellow by the name of Sammy Sosa.
Well, it's so much fun to watch Robbie Alomar, who's in the box now, play with Vizquel. They're loaded with Gold Gloves. They have fun playing. They enjoy one another, and they really are good people.
Vizquel on base for the second time tonight. First walk issued by Wells, only the 10th walk issued by Wells in his last 10 starts. Roberto Alomar singled back in the first inning, raising his average up to .321. The former Blue Jays spent 5 years in Toronto. Alomar homered last night as Delgado holds Vizquel on at first.
The second time through the lineup, you can see what the first 3 hitters have begun to do with David Wells and make him throw some pitches, trying to make him go a little deeper in the count. At first at bat, they were jumping at anything they saw that looked good.
Alomar facing his ex-teammate. He and Wells played together with the Orioles.
Robbie Alomar is a sensational second baseman. He's as good as ever played this game in range. He can range behind second to make plays, behind first to make plays.
Looks to butt his way on. Here's the throw by Wells. Head first slide by Alomar. 2 out. And Vizquel moves over to second.
Well, this shows you something about David Wells. This is a pretty good bunt. The bunt might be a little too close to the mound rather than out in the line. If you can see where he bunts the ball, if it had been along the line a little bit in this area, it would have been different. But look at David Wells jump on it with his bare hand and throw a strike to first base. That wasn't even that close. So that shows you some athleticism. Robbie Alomar just telling the teammates where the pitch was. When you go to drop a bunt down like that, you try to drop it closer to the foul line if you can, meaning the pitcher would have that much farther to go to field the ball. The ball was a little bit too close to the mound.
Here's Manny Ramirez, who grounded to short his first time up. Ramirez, the center of controversy in the first inning. He started in right field 85 times this year. Has not DH, but he was supposed to be the DH according to the lineup card. However, Manny trotted out to right. Alex Ramirez was scheduled to DH, and once Manny took the field in right, the Indians lost the designated hitter, forcing pitcher Charles Nagy to bat 7th. with a steal of third is Vizquel, his 21st stolen base this season.
Now, we talked about it earlier. From second base to go to third base, it's easier than it is from first to second for some base runners, because the pitcher, especially a left-hander, has a tough time seeing the runner behind him, and oftentimes doesn't pay as much attention, and there's nobody standing there holding him on, even though the throw is shorter for the catcher.
Here's the 1-1 for Ramirez, and he takes strike 2, 1-2.
Even though the throw is shorter for the catcher, the base runner can get a better jump. And look at these numbers. When you think of Manny Ramirez with these guys in front of him, why he's driving some runs? Obviously, he's doing a lot himself. But look what the guys in front of him have been doing.
Now 2-2. You mentioned earlier Juan Gonzalez drove in 101 at the All-Star break last year, the second highest total in history. Ramirez 94 this season at the All-Star break, the third highest total. Hank Greenberg holds the record. He drove in 103 by the All-Star break back in 1935. Here's Fernandez backing up at third, and he throws out Ramirez. So the Indians strand Vizquel on third. 3 innings in the books. Toronto leading it 3-0. Well, the Indians' third, we saw the athleticism of Blue Jays pitcher David Wells quickly off the mound to throw out Roberto Alomar. We spoke with Jim Fregosi about Wells.
First of all, good curveball. Fastball, he throws 2 kinds. He tries to cut one in on a right-handed hitter, and then he's been throwing more sinkers lately. Good slider. Control, outstanding changeup. Beats to a different drum than most people, but he's a great competitor. Doesn't look like an athlete, but is a great athlete.
I don't know if David would appreciate that. I think he likes the good athlete part. He is a good athlete. He's also a very good competitor.
He's thrown 2 consecutive complete games. He says, I like to finish what I start.
He can be a manager's trial, I'm sure. Joe Torre has great patience, and there were times when he and David had several discussions.
And Wells has pitched for a number of managers. The Blue Jays, his 5th club in the last 6 years. And not many people are more excited about David Cohn's perfect game than David Wells, who became very good friends last year. Over the last 2 years, teammates with the Yankees, and of course David Wells threw his perfect game last May. David Cohn received the key to New York City from Mayor Rudolph Giuliani earlier this week. David Wells caught the last couple of innings of the game on television, called Cohn immediately after the game in the Yankees clubhouse. Tony Fernandez goes down on strikes. First strikeout for Nagy. In fact, David Wells thought about flying into New York. As we take another look at the Fernandez strikeout.
Now this is a straight down breaking ball from Charles Nagy. When we look at the pitch tracks, you can see how the angle of the ball coming, heading downward, and you can see that it's 9 inches breaking downward. The thing that Sandy Koufax had such a great curveball, it broke 2 feet. The 9 inches seems like a big break.
Darren Fletcher doubled in a run in the second, came around to score. David Wells recently bought a plane with Kirk Gibson, one of his best friends from his days in Detroit. And Wells thought about flying in to celebrate with David Cohn in New York on Sunday night, then changed his mind.
After what this weekend brought with those little planes, they've always scared me, and now to see tragedy with the Kennedy family, think about people flying. Remember when Thurman Munson, who lived not far from here, died in a plane crash.
I believe it's been nearly 20 years.
No.
August 2nd, 1979.
It was amazing. I had just gotten fired from the Indians. I was fired July 23rd. I joined the Yankees 2 days later, and I sat in the Yankee clubhouse and talked with Thurman. We had been friends across the field. And I said I would see them when they came back from the road trip, and I never saw him again. And his son Mike and my youngest son Dale played together in the Yankee organization.
Here's the 2-2 to Fletcher. Ball 3, full count.
But it's amazing how time flies. Golly, those small planes scare you. David Wells, though, is such a free spirit. He just brings an attitude that, you know, it's, I'm sure, as we said earlier, that tries to manage his patience at times, but I'll tell you what, he's a gamer and loves to play this game.
Fletcher goes down on strikes. Second consecutive strikeout for Charles Nagy. Well, Jeff, as you know, Jim Rome tells it like it is on the nightline of sports talk shows. It's The Last Word, midnight on Fox Sports Net. And Jim's guest tonight, Trevor Hoffman, the San Diego Padres closer. 53 saves a year ago as the Padres advanced all the way to the World Series. The brother of Dodgers coach, and last year the Dodger interim manager Glenn Hoffman.
Boy, what a job the San Diego Padres are doing. They look like they were going to end up last in that Western Division. They have been unbelievable.
Only 3 games out in the West. And that was as of this morning. The Padres beat the Giants today, so now they trail San Francisco by only 2.
Amazing.
Well hit into the left field corner. Batista in at second with a double. He drove in a run in the second inning. And for Tony Batista, his 5th 2-base hit of the season.
Boy, this is a different looking stance, but this guy can hit. Now look at this stance. He's almost on the back line. His hands are in front of his head. Now he takes his front foot, brings it all the way back, and he drops his hands down here. You talk about motion. It's almost like a slow pitch softball hitter, but he gets in position to hit, and it works for him.
Batista continuing to energize the Blue Jays since coming over from Arizona. Jose Cruz Jr. fouls off the first pitch from Nagy. 0-1. Cruz grounded out to second. His first time up. Blue Jays only 1 game behind the Red Sox in the race for the American League wild card spot. Red Sox and Orioles now in the 6th inning, and Baltimore has taken a 1-0 lead, so that is good news for the Toronto Blue Jays. The Baltimore win and a Blue Jay win, and Toronto would move into a tie with Boston. Blue Jays not only trail the Red Sox by only 1 game in the wild card race, they're only 6.5 in back of the division leading Yankees. Yankees won today 5-4 over Tampa Bay.
Well, you know the tear that the Blue Jays are on. You wonder if they can keep up that percentage, but they are so talented.
Nagy strikes out Cruz, so he strikes out the side in the 4th. And the Blue Jays strand a runner on second. Back in Cleveland as we head to the bottom of the 4th inning, with the Blue Jays leading the Indians by the score of 3-0. Time now for our Sherwin-Williams trivia question. How many players on today's teams played for Toronto's 1992 World Series Championship club? We already told you about one of them. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to think about our trivia as Richie Sexson steps in. Leading things off for the Indians here in the 4th. Sexson struck out his first time up. 15 home runs, 55 runs batted in on the year. This could be number 16. Will it stay fair? Yes! Home run, Richie Sexson. His 16th of the season, cutting the Blue Jays lead to 3-1.
was struck out on pitches way inside. 3 pitches inside. See, David Wells upset with himself because he did not get the ball where he wanted it the way he did the first at bat.
Sexton's first home run in nearly a month. He had not homered since June 28th. And he had driven in only 2 runs in his last 13 games. 0-2 on Tony. Now 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Looking at our pitch tracks, you can see where the pitches were the first at bat. He struck out on 3 on the inside part of the plate. None of them strikes. Now they come back this next at bat and try to get the ball in, don't get it in, and it goes out of the ballpark, and you see the height of it. Remember, Richie Sexson 6'7", and he got his hand out on it, as we mentioned, and drove it out of the ballpark.
Now 2-2 on Tony. The Sexton home run, the 20th long ball allowed by David Wells. Only 3 American League pitchers have given up more home runs than Wells. Jeff Fassero, James Baldwin, and the Indians' Dave Vernon. So he has been prone to the long ball this year. But the Blue Jays still leading 3-1, nobody out. 2-2 on Jim Thome, who was caught looking his first time up. And Wells has gone from 0-2 to 3-2.
They tried to throw Jim Thome a lot of breaking balls like he did the first at bat. Remember, he dropped down and threw him a nasty sidearm breaking ball that Jim didn't have a chance at. You were talking about home run totals. The guys that give up the most home runs are usually the ones that are around the plate and throw strikes.
4 consecutive balls after the 0-2 count. So Thome is on second walk issued by Wells. Does not give up very many balls. 2 so far tonight. Up next Sunday at 10 a.m. on Fox Sports Net, the Grand Prix of Austria. Mika Hakkinen looks to defend the title he won at the A1 ring a year ago. Check local listings. The Grand Prix of Austria, Sunday on Fox Sports Net. Well, here's Charles Nagy once again, struck out in the second. Comes to the plate with nobody out. And Thome, the runner on first.
Here we are in a situation that if you were in a National League game, the pitchers are supposed to get the bunts down, but the American League pitchers don't normally take much batting practice, especially once interleague play is over. Now, it's going to be tough to get this ball down because Tony Fernandez is right on top of the third base.
Oh, nice catch made by the catcher Fletcher to retire Nagy.
Boy, that was a nice play. And the reason why it's not easy because the catcher's looking for the ball in front of him. Now here goes Nagy, the bunt, and he jabs at it. But look how Darren Fletcher reacted. Here comes David Wells at you. Your left-handed hitter trying to bunt, look like a dirty ball on top of it. But look at this reaction by Darren Fletcher. That's a darn nice play.
So 1 away for the third baseman Enrique Wilson. Single to left off Wells in the second inning. Thome the runner on first. Sexton Holmgren leading off the inning. And as Wilson takes ball 1.
I just mentioned something there. It looked like a dirty ball. You ought to see some of the balls that get rubbed up before the game. They almost look like they're light chocolate brown, where the umpires rub them up with mud. And particular time of day when the lights don't take hold, those balls really look dark.
Of course, Charlie Finley experimented with the yellow baseballs.
And I played when he also had orange baseballs. I played the game with one of those one time, and they were so slippery. They were tanned in a different way, and they were bright orange, and you couldn't really grab hold of them. That didn't, you know, he had some great ideas. Like World Series was his idea, but that orange baseball and that different colored baseball was not a very good idea.
Now back to the screen, 1-2. Finley also owned the Oakland Seals of the NHL, and at one point his players wore white skates.
You know, white just like his baseball team wore the white. I guess they were green and gold too, weren't they? The regular hockey uniforms.
1-2 on Wilson, 1 out. And the Indians 4. 3-1 Blue Jays, all 3 Toronto runs coming in the top of the 2nd inning. Foul back behind first base. The count remains 1-2. Getting set. The 1-2. And Enrique Wilson is called out on strikes. 4th strikeout for David Wells. Wilson not very happy about it. Time out for a Fox Sports Net game break. We head to Cincinnati where the Reds lead the Cardinals 5-3 in the top of the 9th. Danny Graves on the mound, and Mark McGwire goes deep to right, just barely over the right field wall. His 33rd of the season. And then Fernando Tatis hits his 2nd homer of the game to left off Graves. A 2-run shot, his 23rd. Cardinals with 2 homers in the 9th, and they beat the Reds 6-5. Synergy Field was the only ballpark McGwire had not homered in his career. And it was a big one, number 33. And Diaz flies out to Sean Green in right. So the Indians strand 1. They also scored a run on the Sexton home run as Wells watches it go over the left field wall. 3-1 Blue Jays. Welcome back to Baseball Thursday on Fox Sports Net. Another sellout at Jacobs Field. 81 degrees at game time, with the Blue Jays leading the Indians 3-1. Once again, our Sherwin-Williams trivia question. How many players in tonight's game on these 2 clubs played for Toronto's World Series Championship Club in 1992? There is your answer. 2 of the 4 are now Indians. Roberto Alomar and Pat Waters, along with 2 Blue Jay starters, David Wells and Pat Hinkin. Wells, of course, in his 2nd tour of duty with Toronto. Homer Bush leading off the Blue Jays' 5th single dinner run in the 2nd inning. And he falls behind 0-2.
If you look at Jim Fregosi, of course, he managed that Philly team that got broken-heartedly beat in the '93 World Series. Now Jim is up here.
Beaten, of course, by the Blue Jays.
By the Blue Jays, and that Joe Carter home run off of Mitch Williams. Fregosi, of course, managed the Angels back in 1979 to a division title.
Ground ball to the shortstop, Vizquel. On away. And Fregosi, of course, took over during spring training for Tim Johnson. He has his club just 1 game out of the wild card. Well, Sunday night on Fox Sports Net. Sunday night fights from Kansas City starting at 7 p.m. The heavyweight bout between Jorge Gonzalez and Tommy Martin highlight a terrific evening of boxing. Check local listings this Sunday on Fox Sports Net. One away in the Blue Jay 5th, Shannon Stewart. 0 for 2, fly to right in the 1st, grounded to 3rd in the 2nd. Now, Fregosi was traded by the California Angels in 1971, December of 71, a 5-player deal with the New York Mets, with Nolan Ryan going from the Mets to the Angels. And 28 years later, that trade is still talked about in New York. I live in New York. You work in New York, live down at the Jersey Shore. That trade is still talked about 28 years later as one of the worst in the history of New York sports, with the Mets giving up Nolan Ryan, your former battery mate, who will become a Hall of Famer this Sunday.
Boy, isn't that wonderful. I was very fortunate to be with the Angels when that trade was made, when Nolan came to the Angels. Fortunate to catch his first no-hitter. And you know the amazing thing about that first no-hitter? That was May 15, 1973. You know who the manager was of the Kansas City Royals? Jack McKeon. That was 73. This is 99. Jack's still managing. In fact, he protested the game because Nolan had a habit of tapping the rubber with his toe and kind of breaking contact with it before he made the turn on the rubber. He protested the game, and then, of course, when the game was over, he said, "Ah, the heck with it."
Here's the 0-2 from Nagy. In the air, right center, Lofton and Ramirez, and it's Manny Ramirez who makes the catch. Stewart now 0 for 3. Nolan Ryan, George Brett, Robin Yount, Orlando Cepeda.
And Nestor Shylock's going in as an umpire. I'm going to try to get to Cooperstown from Houston. It's going to be a haul to get there, but I just have to be there for Nolan's induction if I can. Boy, that's exciting. And watching what Nolan Ryan accomplished with all those years, the longest career in the history of the game, 27 seasons. Anybody threw that hard for that long? It's incredible.
And our colleague Ken Brett, who works many of the FX games on Saturday nights, already up in Cooperstown. He will present his brother George on Sunday.
That's neat. Of course, people don't realize Kenny Brett was a heck of a player himself. In fact, there are some who think he came up very young with the Red Sox as a left-handed pitcher, a relief pitcher. Some think he was such a good hitter that maybe he should have been an everyday player.
He hit 10 career home runs. Line drive caught by the backpedaling Manny Ramirez. 1-2-3 fifth for Charles Nagy, but the Indians still trail the Blue Jays 3-1. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Blue Jays scored 3 in the second. Indians with their run in the 4th inning, a Richie Sexson home run. And now the top of the order for Cleveland as Kenny Lofton takes a strike. Lofton 0 for 2. He's grounded out to the shortstop Batista twice tonight. Into left field, Shannon Stewart. 1 away. Log on to FoxSports.com to find out how MasterCard could be your ticket to sit with members of the Major League Baseball All-Century team at this year's World Series. That's FoxSports.com. David Wells became one of only 15 pitchers, now 16, to pitch a perfect game last May at Yankee Stadium. And he went to the same high school as Don Larson, who had been the only previous Yankee to pitch a perfect game at Yankee Stadium. And Don Larson, ironically, was on hand when Cone did it. He threw out the first pitch. It was Yogi Berra Day. They had Yogi catch the first pitch. Don Larson threw out the first pitch. And he was there to watch the 3rd Yankee perfect game in the Bronx.
And Yogi used Joe Girardi's glove, and Girardi went on to catch the perfect game. How about all that kind of tie-in? How coincidental is that? Holy mackerel.
And Girardi said he was going to have Yogi sign the glove, and he will retire the glove after the season. Now, speaking of perfect games, Len Barker of the Indians pitched one against the Blue Jays, May of 1981 at Cleveland Stadium, and then Toronto's Dave Steed threw a no-hitter here in Cleveland 9 years later. So these teams have had 2 no-hitters, one of them a perfect game, in games involving each other in the last 2 decades.
A little trivia question, too. The catcher who caught Len Barker's no-hitter was Ron Hasse. But Ron Hasse also caught another perfect game, Dennis Martinez, for the Expos against the Dodgers. So he's the only catcher in history to catch a perfect game in each league. There are only 3 catchers. There's a reason I bring this up.
And I know the reason.
There are only 3 catchers who have caught a no-hitter in each league. And Gus Triandos also caught a perfect game with Jim Bunnings for the Phillies on Father's Day, 1964 Shea Stadium. And he caught a no-hitter for the Baltimore Orioles of Hoyt Wilhelms.
career home runs. Two more than Ken Brett.
I should have never brought it up. I was very fortunate to catch Sandy Koufax's perfect game. That was a real thrill. Later on, catch Nolan Ryan's first no-hitter in the American.
Pascal fouls one back. If I'm not mistaken, Rick Manning from the Indians TV booth, who you saw in our open today, caught the last out in Len Barker's perfect game.
Yes, he did, playing center field. Rick was a good player. I managed here for 3 years. Rick was one of the best young players coming to the big leagues that I had seen. He could run, played a real shallow center field.
Here's the 3-2 to Vizquel, and that is the third walk issued by Wells tonight. Indians battling back. They trail 3-1. They've lost 5 of their last 7. We've talked about their recent slump with their manager.
Good games again in cycles. There's good cycles and bad cycles. The trick is making the bad cycles real short and the good cycles real long. You know, right now we're not swinging the bats real well. We're not scoring many runs. We're getting decent pitching. Cologne's pitched well for us. Burley the other night against the Blue Jays was outstanding. But you know, we just didn't score, you know, the runs like we're used to scoring. We're dinged up. We've got people hurt, people on the DL that you know that is a major concern. What we've got to understand and realize, and I talk to my players and they understand it, is that they've got to do what they do best and let their neighbor do their jobs and do what they do best.
Roberto Alomar steps in with 1 out. Mike Hargrove mentioned Bartolo Colon. Indians 2-5 in their last 7. Colon has both victories. And the Indians suffered a blow today when they placed Garrett Wright on the 15-day disabled list with shoulder problems. There goes Vizquel. Here's the throw from Fletcher, and Omar steals his second base of the game, 22nd of the season.
He has one of the biggest jumps you'll ever see in the game. He's got a head start on the run here, and Darren Fletcher has no chance of throwing him out at second base. Now watch Vizquel. Look at him go. Look at him go. He's got 8 to 9 steps before David Wells even throws the ball to the plate. That's one of those where you're just guessing that the left-hander's not going to throw to first base. So you say to yourself, I'm going to really cheat and get a head start. Normally they say you go on first move. Well, I'll tell you what, he went long before the first move. How about...
So Vizquel now in scoring position. 1-2 on Roberto Alomar. Against David Wells this year, with Wells on the mound, opponents are now 30 of 35 stealing bases.
David Wells doesn't worry about holding too close. I mean, at times he knows when the game's on the line, he'll do all sorts of things to hold him close. But the rest of the time, he concentrates on throwing strikes to the hitter.
Little bloop into right field. Here comes Vizquel around third. And the Indians have cut the Blue Jays lead to 1 run. RBI number 66 for Roberto Alomar.
Well, we talked about the front end of the Indians order can make things happen. Now this is a pitch that David Wells gets way inside, and Robbie Alomar just pushes his hands through inside the ball and dumps this ball into right field. So wonder the bat didn't break. Look where it hits. That ball is just above his hands. Now here you can see where the pitch is. Inner part of the, if it hits the plate, it's lucky. In fact, it looks like it's even inside of the plate. Robbie Alomar forces the ball into right center field. That's a walk, a stolen base, and a stolen run is really what it amounts to.
So the Indians chipping away. They trailed 3-0. A run in the 4th, a run here in the 5th. And with 1 away, Manny Ramirez steps up to the plate. He's 0 for 2 tonight. 2 groundouts.
And David Wells in the first 2 at-bats fed him a steady diet of breaking balls. The book on Manny Ramirez is make him chase bad breaking stuff in the dirt, throw the ball by him up in the strike zone, but don't make a mistake out over the plate. He can hit the ball in any part of this ballpark. We'll see what David Wells does now, 3rd time around. Ramirez held up. Ball 1.
101 runs batted in. Drove in 145 last year. 15 ahead of the Blue Jays' Carlos Delgado, who's in second.
Look at Sean Green, ranked 5th in that list. Two guys right in the middle of the Toronto offense. You can see why they've been winning lately. Manny Ramirez is looking fastball. You can see him shake his head. This guy has become a very smart hitter. He knows what he wants to do. He'll use his first 2 strikes wisely. When he gets 2 strikes on him, he stays out over the plate and he'll shoot the ball to right field. This Indian team reminds me a little bit of the old Cardinal teams in the front end of the order, or the Dodger teams that could run so well and make so much of nothing.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Ramirez.
The Cardinal teams of the 60s had Lou Brock and Kurt Flood and Julian Javier. They could all run. They could handle the bat. They had great on-base percentage. They could get on for the big guys next in the order. Kenny Boyer, Bill White. They did this same type of thing. They could play the inside game and they could just sneak up on you. And the Dodgers were the same way with Maury Wills, Willie Davis, Tommy Davis. Didn't score a whole lot of runs, but could score them in any number of ways.
1 out. Alomar the runner on first. 1 and 2 on Ramirez. And Wells strikes him out. Strikeout number 5 for David Wells. Time now for another Fox Sportsnet game break. From Fenway, top of the 6th with the Orioles leading the Red Sox 1-0. Albert Bell goes deep, a 3-run shot to left, his 21st of the year off Jin-Ho Cho. And the Orioles lead the Red Sox 5-1 in the 7th. Boston with that 1-game lead in the American League wild card race over the Blue Jays. So should the Blue Jays hang on and the Orioles defeat the Red Sox, we would have a 2-way tie, Boston and Toronto. Here's Richie Sexson, who homered leading off the 4th. The solo shot, his 16th of the year. Baltimore 7-25 against their division. There goes Alomar. Throw from Fletcher, not in time. And Roberto steals his 24th of the year.
Well, they have an idea what he's doing. They're just running when he makes his first move. They know he's not paying any attention to him. That was a breaking ball, and Darren Fletcher again had no chance. See, here comes David. He looked at the runner. He's not trying to be deceptive. He's trying to make his pitches at the plate, and it doesn't give the catcher much chance, especially on a big breaking ball, which takes a long time to get to the plate.
Alomar on second, 1-1 on Sexson. There's foul into the Indians dugout. 1-2. You saw the Orioles division record?
Yes.
Toronto 11-1 against Baltimore this year. More than 1/5 of the Blue Jays' victories have come against the Orioles. 11 of 52.
Wow. You see that every year. One ball club seems to beat up on another ball club, or one club can't beat another ball club. Albert Bell, if he gets hot in any form of the way he did the second half of the season last year, the Orioles could do a lot of damage. I think they're probably too far gone as far as down in the standings with too many teams ahead of them to really do any damage in the division. But
well, Richie Sexson led off the 4th inning with his 16th of the year off Wells for the Indians' first run. Now a count of 2-2 on Sexson with 2 outs in the Indians' 5th. 1 run in on 1 hit. 2 stolen bases this inning for the Tribe. And Wells strikes out Sexson for the 2nd time tonight. Strikeout number 6 for David Wells. Through 5, the Blue Jays 3, the Indians 2. Sportsnet is brought to you by Zima, a few degrees cooler. Welcome back to Cleveland. Kenny Albert along with Jeff Torborg on Fox Sports Net Baseball Thursday. Jim Fragosi's Toronto Blue Jays looking to win their 6th in a row. They've won a Major League high 33 home games. And Mike Hargrove's club trailing by a 3-2 score. Toronto with 3 runs on 4 hits in the 2nd inning. In the 4 other innings combined, they've had only 1 base runner against Charles Nagy. Sean Green in the air, deep left center, leaping at the wall is lofted. It's off the out-of-town scoreboard. A stand-up double as Green extends his hitting streak to 20 games.
Kenny, I can't believe this ball went that far. It was a hanging breaking ball that Sean Green stayed back on with his little short stroke and flipped it off the left center field fence. That shows how strong he is, or how the ball's carrying, or both. Watch this swing. Look at it, it's out over. He's out on his front foot. And he hits the ball off the fence in left center in the power alley.
So a leadoff double by Green here in the 6th. Good effort by Lofton. Carlos Delgado steps in. Carlos 1 for 2 tonight with a run scored. Green's 20-game hitting streak, 1 behind the 21-game hitting streaks, longest in the American League this season. Frank Thomas of the White Sox and the Orioles, B.J. Surhoff. Delgado with a smash foul down the right field line. Luis Gonzalez, of course, of the Diamondbacks with the longest hitting streak in the majors this year, 30 games.
We're just talking about the kind of hitters that we have seen, but look at these 2 back-to-back in the middle of this Toronto Blue Jay order. Delgado swings so hard, he hits the ball so hard. He's in a situation right now with none out. He wants to make sure he pulls the ball here to get Sean Green at least to third base, if not in.
Now 1 and 2 on Delgado. Between the 2 of them, Green and Delgado, 53 home runs, 166 driven in.
Really are tough outs. As we mentioned earlier, Delgado only hitting .258, but his average was much lower than that. He has steadily been bringing it up.
And Delgado with a 12-game hitting streak of his own. Inside, ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Delgado. Nobody out. Here in the Blue Jays 6th. Sean Green, the runner on second, with Tony Fernandez waiting on deck. Extra base hit number 56 for Green, which leads the majors. And Nagy strikes out Delgado. At least he thought he did. Delgado says he got a piece of it.
Is he trying to say he fouled it and the ball bounced? Mike Everett saying no, he's out. Jim Fregosi, I believe, is saying that the ball was tipped and bounced. Rocky Rowe, one of the better umpires in Major League Baseball, is a guy who'll listen to your complaints. He'll talk to you about it. When he's had enough, he'll walk away. But he's not arrogant. He really is a guy that will listen and explain what he sees and what he has seen.
Fregosi and Delgado will not win the argument. Let's take another look.
Well, I believe this is a split finger. Yeah, they're right. It bounced, but Delgado did not foul it, what the umpires are saying, but the ball did bounce.
Did not look like Delgado got a piece of it.
Well, it's worth a try if you got to, you know, you just struck out. It's worth a try saying it. Say, oh, I just tipped the ball and I know it bounced.
So strikeout number 4 for Nagy. Tony Fernandez. 1 for 2 with a run scored. Infield single off the glove of Tomey in the 2nd inning.
I'll say Nagy has really changed his approach. He went to curveball in the last inning, and now this inning he's going to a great
closer. No time for a throw. Second infield hit of the game for Tony Fernandez.
Now, this oftentimes happens, especially if you have a pitcher who has the ball moving downward in the strike zone. You'll see hitters hit these choppers. Now, remember, Tony Fernandez can run. Coming out of the left-hander batter's box, he's a couple feet closer. And that ball was chopped so high that Robbie Alomar used his head. No throw to first, turned it as though he were going to third base. Not much you can do with this, but look how he hits heads up. He's got a chance to, if the runner at third base, Sean Green, makes too wide a turn, Robbie's ready to throw to third.
So runners on first and third with one out. Aaron Fletcher steps in. Doubled in a run in the second, struck out in the fourth. All one.
So often we talk about pitchers changing their ideas. Maybe the first time to the order, they'll do something the second time, the third time. It's been very obvious with Nagy. He went to the curveballs last inning, and now he's using a nasty split finger.
Well, back 1-1.
Now, Darren Fletcher, if you look at the shot on the left, those balls were in the middle of the plate, and that's when he hit a double. Now, the next time he came up, Charlie Nagy, on the right side, you can see they kept everything away from a backdoor breaking ball. Showed one, there was one ball low in, the rest of them were away, and they even had the one high pitch. But they don't want to throw anything from the middle in if they can help it. But Darren Fletcher, that's where he's strongest.
Here's the 1-1. Nice block by the catcher Diaz. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Now, there's kind of a pet peeve for me as a manager and a former catcher. I used to feel that when you had runners at first and third, and the ball is heading into the dirt, the catcher is so concerned about blocking the ball, keep the runner from third from scoring. The minute the base runner at first sees the ball in the dirt, he can just walk to second. And that's when you have to be alive. You see the angle of the ball going in the dirt because the catcher's first thought is block the ball and let the runner from third score.
Two on Fletcher.
There's that split finger. That's what we're talking about. Pitchers will get feels in different parts of the game. All of a sudden, a certain pitch feels good. They know they have a good release point. They're able to throw it where they want it. Charlie Nagy has got an unbelievable split finger this inning. This guy's going to use split finger, set the grip ahead of time. And because the split finger grip is tough to get.
Lifted into left. Section backpedaling. Makes the catch. Here comes Green from third. And the Blue Jays lead is now 4-2. Sacrifice fly, RBI number 44. And the second run driven in tonight by Darren Fletcher.
Well, this is good situational hitting. Darren Fletcher went down and got a ball away from him just so he made sure he drove the ball to the outfield. He didn't try to do too much. He didn't try to pull it. A couple nights ago, he hit a grand slam home run to right field that shows that this guy is really, he must be seeing the ball well now. After getting hit in the eye earlier in the year, he was not seeing the ball well.
So with 2 away, here's Tony Batista. All 4 Blue Jay runs tonight, Jim, have been driven in by the bottom 4 in the Toronto batting order.
You know, this is a darn good order. When you look at the bottom 4 in the order, and Homer Bush bats tonight, he's like a leadoff hitter. Jose Cruz Jr. is a guy just ready to blossom. Tony Batista has always had good pop in his back. Add to that, Darren Fletcher comes in this game hitting .299. Look at these 2 guys.
The Tony Awards.
The veteran Tony and the young Tony.
The young Tony at the plate. Knocks foul. Terry Bevington tried to make the play. Former White Sox manager, third base coach with the Blue Jays.
Bunch of White Sox managers here. Look at the look from up above. Look at this crazy looking stance. I mean, is this different? Look at the angle of the bat, everything. He drops the bat. He brings the foot in. I mean, he has all sorts of action when he gets ready to hit. got the feeling if he could replace managers here in Cleveland every evening after 3 months, it'd be in a pennant race.
Just keep rotating managers.
Yeah, they don't have to do that anymore. Mike Hargrove to settle things down.
And Mike played for you in Cleveland.
Yes, in fact, I kid him because we made a trade to get him June 15th of 1979, and I was fired 3 weeks later. I said, Mike, you really did a heck of a job. You really helped me out. He has done some job here. He's a very underrated manager.
Wilson to Alomar, and that will do it for the Blue Jays in the 6th. But they add another run on 2 hits and lead the Indians 4-2.
Back in Cleveland, 4-2 lead for the Blue Jays. David Wells, who came in having pitched back-to-back complete games, exits after 5. Paul Spoljaric is the new Blue Jays pitcher. Acquired from the Phillies in May by Toronto in exchange for Robert Person.
Well, remember, Spoljaric started with Toronto. Then he went over to Seattle and then went to the Phillies. The Phillies had some thought of starting him, and it didn't work out. And Robert Person, of course, was their closer, was the Blue Jays closer for part of this year, or at least they had planned to have him close, and he struggled, so they switched. And the Blue Jays brought in a left-hander, and of course, bringing in the extra left-hander enabled them to trade Dan Plesac, another left-hander, and that's how they got Tony Batista. It's amazing how one trade leads to another when you're building a ball club.
And Person was the pitcher the Blue Jays acquired from the New York Mets in exchange for John Olerud.
Right.
Spoljaric facing Jim Thome, leading off the Indians 6th. Thome struck out and walked tonight. Takes a strike, 1-1. With the pitcher spot due up next, Thome into the left field corner, off the wall. Extra bases for Thome, a stand-up double. And as I was saying, with the pitcher spot due up next, Mike Hargrove will pinch hit for Charles Nagy as Hargrove sends John McDonald to the plate following the double by Thome.
Talked tonight about how some left-handed hitters have good power the other way. We saw the one that Sean Green just popped a hanging breaking ball out away from off the left center field fence, when Jim Thome just almost took one out down the left field line. That is big-time power hitting the ball that far the other way.
Due to the mix-up in the first inning when Manny Ramirez ran out to play right field instead of Alex Ramirez, Charles Nagy was forced to bat twice, and now he will be pinch hit for in the 6th inning by John McDonald, who is 4 for 12 at the plate for the Indians this season.
Well, I will say it again. I look on Mike Hargrove's face when that first inning ended, that first half inning ended, knowing what had happened with the Ramirez's, and this thing has got to prey on his mind. If they lose this game,
There's going to be an awful lot written and said about it.
And it will also affect the pitching staff in the bullpen. Nagy probably would have remained in the game for at least one more inning. 2-1 on the pitch hit of McDonald. Spoljaric on in relief of Wells for the Blue Jays.
Well, obviously, as a manager, you sit back there, you want to win every game, but boy, when one of these things happens, you want to protect yourself and your coaching staff, no matter whose problem or whose fault it was.
And of course, the Indians cannot use Alex Ramirez. McDonald's is pinch hitting. They have only 3 bench players remaining. Jacob Cruz, Pat Borders, David Justice.
And you worry about, too, when you only have
2 on McDonald. In the dirt, full count.
You look at a game and you think about certain parts of the game and their crucial times. Right now, this at bat is crucial for the Indians. Now you've got a few innings to go, but they're in a situation right now. They've got to try to make things happen. They've got to score in this inning if they can. They just gave up a run that they really wish they could have not done.
And the pinch hitter McDonald strikes out. First strikeout for Spoljaric. One away in the Indians' 6th. With Enrique Wilson stepping to the plate, we remind you Saturday night, FX Baseball Saturday night continues a National League Western Division showdown between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles Dodgers. FX Baseball Saturday at 10 Pacific, 7 Eastern. Dodgers 8 games under the 500 mark, 8 games out in the West, but they've gone 8-4 in their last 12. Dodgers losing today to the Colorado Rockies 4-1. We told you about the Padres 8-7 win over the Giants. San Diego pulling to within 2 games of San Francisco. Arizona only a game back.
Boy, how about that matchup going up to the new stadium, Safeco Field up in Seattle, with Randy Johnson going in the other night against his former teammates, and an awful lot of credit given to what Randy had done in order to get that stadium built. That was a great success of that postseason '95 of the Mariners, and Randy right in the middle of it.
Scheduled to face Kevin Brown over the weekend. They matched up against one another opening day.
Remember, there were a couple heartbreaking losses for the Diamondbacks against the Dodgers. A lot of people said, well, second-year expansion team. They certainly have turned that around.
Here's the 2-0, fouled back by Wilson. Wilson 1 for 2 tonight. Toby the runner on second. Indians trailing the Blue Jays 4-2. Wells went 5 innings, allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, struck out 6. He walked 3 and allowed the 1 home run to Richie Sexson. Here's the center fielder Cruz. 2 away.
You know, Kenny, we were talking before about how the bottom of the Toronto order looks tough and has been able to produce some runs. Look at the bottom of the Indian order. Not to mention the spot where Nagy had to go hit. I don't even want to consider that. But Diaz, 23 RBIs. He's been doing a pretty good job for him. Enrique Wilson, only 17 RBIs. And Charles Nagy had to hit in that spot. And all of a sudden, the bottom of that Indians order is missing the kind of people that would be made up by Sandy Alomar, Travis Fryman, Will Cordero out with an injury. I mean, all of a sudden, the bottom of that order is just not the same. Mike Hargrove, we had the interview with Mike saying they're just not picking up the hits the way they did.
Diaz 0 for 2 tonight. Ahead in the count, 2 balls, no strikes. We saw Charles Nagy a moment ago thinking to himself, now I know what it feels like to play in the National League. Not only forced to bat, but bat in the number 7 spot.
And being a left-handed hitter, having to face David Wells, a left-handed pitcher, is no picnic to begin with.
Baltimore still leading Boston 5-1 now in the 8th inning. Now 2-2 on Diaz with 2 outs. Bottom of the 6th inning from Jacobs Field, over 43,000 on hand. With the Blue Jays, who won last night 4-3, leading the Indians tonight 4-2.
This is amazing. When I came into town last night, was outside this ballpark, almost everybody I saw walking the streets has some sort of Cleveland garb on, whether it's Cleveland socks, shirts, uniforms, hats. This town has really turned it out for this ball club. And now I also went by the new football stadium for the Browns, which is in the same location as the old municipal stadium here in town. A beautiful looking setting. This town is a great sports town, and they have really done some job downtown here. But you know, having been here in the 70s when we didn't win very many, and we also didn't have a whole lot of people come to the ball games. Everyone talked about it being a sleeping giant. Well, they were right.
Fair ball down the right field line. Here comes Thome in to score. Diaz in at second, stand-up double, RBI number 24. And again, the Indians pull within one.
And I talked about this inning being a crucial one. That is a big, big hit for the Indians. Here's the pitch. It was away, and look at Diaz just lay the bat on it. He didn't try to pull it. He just shot it inside first base. I think he was trying to go to right field. Not so sure he was trying to place it inside the first baseman, but I think he was going to right field.
And Blue Jays pitching coach Mel Queen out to the mound. Diaz coming into the game was batting .351 with runners in scoring position. Drives in his 24th run.
Mel Queen, the pitching coach of the Blue Jays, an interesting story. He started out as a pitcher in the minor leagues. His father had been a major league pitcher. Mel then was, well, actually started out as an outfielder, I should say, in the Cincinnati organization, then was converted to pitching. He and Jim Fregosi and I were all teammates on the 1971 Indians. I should say Angels. As you mentioned, the big trade was at the end of that year. Now look at Queenie must have gone back and talked about the conversation on the mound, and Jim Fregosi can't believe it. He said, what?
Kenny Lofton takes a strike. Lofton 0 for 3 tonight. The potential tying run is on at second base with 2 out.
I don't want to say anything, Kenny, but there's been some great stories about left-handed pitchers. And if you go out and have a discussion on the mound with a left-hander, you're never sure what you're going to hear.
Now Mel Queen walking down to the other end of the dugout away from his manager.
Kenny Lofton tonight, as we mentioned, there are times he's put great battles on left-handed pitchers. Tonight he has tried to go the other way. He's hit 2 ground balls and he hit a fly ball to left field, kind of pulled out on that last one. But Kenny is trying to stay on the ball, and again facing another left-hander in Spoljaric.
Now back to the screen, 1-2.
Well, that was a good swing, and I'm not so sure that was a very good pitch. He got away with one. Kenny Lofton off to another good start. Just lately has been struggling a little bit, but what a player he has been for the Indians after they got him in that trade with Houston.
High and tight, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Now there's that fastball at 92 miles an hour up and in. That's what Spoljaric was trying to do the pitch before and didn't get it there. He got it in the middle of the plate, and Kenny fouled it back.
Lofton goes down on strikes. Second strikeout for Spoljaric. Indians score a run, but they strand Diaz on second. After 6, Blue Jays by a run. Blue Jays 1 game behind the Red Sox in the wild card race. We spoke about it with manager Jim Fregosi.
Well, you know, it's, I think I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm an old-school guy, and I really don't think about the wild card at all. We're playing in that division. We're thinking about winning the division. We're 6 games back. Yankees are a great ball club. They're the best club money can buy. But we got a shot at them.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's always exuded confidence, and his players enjoy playing for him. I talked to him before the game basically about he was known as the manager, of course, of some veteran teams, the Angels, and then that crazy Philly team in 1993. And he said, and then you get a reputation you can't handle young players. He said, I managed in the minor leagues for 3.5 years with the Louisville team and the Cardinal organization that sent 30 guys to the big leagues. He said, this is fun, putting this team together.
His club leads 4-3 as we head to the 7th. And the new pitcher for the Indians, 29-year-old left-hander Ricardo Rincon, who came over from the Pirates during the offseason in the Brian Giles trade. And Rincon will face Jose Cruz Jr. leading off the Blue Jays 7th.
One of the strengths of the Indians is the bullpen. And when John Hart for a number of years has gone out and tried to entice #1 starters to come to Cleveland, either as free agents in the form of John Smoltz or Alex Fernandez, when you can't get those guys to come, what's the next best thing to help your pitching? Help your bullpen. And that's what John Hart has done to strengthen the bullpen. Rincon gives you that left-hander coming out of the bullpen with a low arm angle. It's tough on left-handed hitters.
Now, earlier in the season, Rincon wanted to be known as Ricky Rincon. Now he's back to Ricardo.
Okay. Whatever he wants is fine with me. So pretty good
record. He is now Ricardo Rincon. Indians just want him to get people out. This is 31st appearance of the season. ERA of 5.59. He had 14 saves last year for the Pirates. 2-2 on Jose Cruz Jr., who's 0 for 2 tonight. Charles Nagy went 6 innings, allowed 4 runs on 7 hits. No walks. Nagy struck out 4. Full count on Cruz.
Rincon got hurt earlier in the year, and you never know when a guy gets hurt and he gets thrown out of his rhythm and you don't know what it affects his overall pitching. He can really have a problem, especially with a guy coming out of the pen, because then after being hurt, sometimes it's tough to get your normal work. But this guy has good stuff.
He walks the Blue Jays leadoff man Cruz here in the 7th. Well, we told you earlier about the Blue Jays record against the Orioles, winning 11 of 12, but they won only 1 of 13 against the Yankees and the Red Sox combined.
When they went in to play the Yankees, or played the Yankees, they had just been on a winning streak, and they lost 3 one-run games to the Yankees. They really played well, but they came up short. And you don't know psychologically how that's affected down the road, you know, whether they really believe they can beat him. But I think Jim Fregosi will keep this club ready to go the rest of the way.
Homer Bush bunting one foul. Bush 1 for 2 with an RBI.
We talked about it too as you're looking at Terry Bevington giving signs. This is not a one-dimensional team. This is a team that can run. It's got power. In Tony Fernandez, it's got a guy who can hit for average, as well as Sean Green seems to be able to do everything. They're a good defensive team. Where they're really short is that one big power guy in the DH spot. But they've got great young arms, throw hard.
Rincon, on a good second effort, throws out Bush. Cruz moving over to second.
Well, that's a nice bunt. See, that's what we're talking about. They're not one-dimensional. They can do the little things. See Homer Bush deaden this ball. Rincon goes with the glove and doesn't stay down with both hands, but that's a nice play by Robbie Alomar. But here's the bunt. That's why you teach guys to go down with 2 hands with the ball, especially if it's a catcher going out, because you want to swoop it toward you, because occasionally you pull your head off the ball when you reach for it, either barehanded or with a glove. You'd rather see him kind of go down if you have to. Like earlier in the game, David Wells made a great play barehanded on a bunt.
1 out. Shannon Stewart. Foul back to the screen. Stewart 0 for 3 tonight. Cruz, the runner on second, with the Blue Jays leading the Indians 4-3. Now 0-2 on Stewart.
We were talking earlier about how Shannon Stewart really makes a difference at the front end of this order. His ability to run, his ability to make things happen. He's a good defensive outfielder, but the key is his speed, because when he puts the ball in play, he makes the defense work in a different way than somebody who can't run.
Outside, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Craig Graybeck, a little middle infielder who has done some DHing, is on deck. That's interesting. We've talked about it. Graybeck is about 5'6", and he's been DHing. I don't think there's anybody probably in the history of the DH that size on any ball club, but he puts the ball in play.
Check swing. And first base umpire John Hirschbeck says ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Stewart with 1 out. Runner on second base. Blue Jays leading by a run.
You know, it's interesting about this Blue Jays ball club too. It's written in the paper here today that the Blue Jays have the ability to go out and get some help. They've been told by their ownership that they could spend some money if they became a contender, which they definitely are.
They recently signed David Wells to a contract extension. Other teams, including the Indians, have reportedly inquired about Wells, and general manager Gord Ash of the Blue Jays says, "We've had a few calls about David. He is not available."
You can see why they call about David. Just think about trying to beat the Yankees and what he has done in Yankee Stadium alone. That left-hander makes a major difference, especially a winner like he is.
Stewart goes down on strikes. First strikeout for Rincon. 2 outs in the Blue Jays 7th, and now Craig Graybeck will pinch hit for the designated hitter Willie Green.
Well, you can see that breaking ball. Rincon has a good breaking ball, and you can see that by this pitch track, the angle, how it breaks down. 6 inches down, 3 inches away. And I shouldn't say away, actually 3 inches lower in. It's down and in. And that is a tough pitch to hit when you swing over it. Phil Regan, the pitching coach, going to the mound. And normally when Phil Regan goes to the mound, it's not going to be a pitching change. What they're doing is just deciding on how they're going to pitch a particular hitter. Probably just going over how he wants Graybeck pitched. Graybeck is a good fastball hitter. And take a look at him. For such a little guy, he's got real long arms. We brought him up with the White Sox in 1990, and he did a terrific job for us. Got a little pop in his bat. He has a terrific arm. But he's a good hitter and puts the ball in play, and that's what Jim Fregosi was thinking about when he made the shift. He'd like to see that put the ball in play and try to score another run here.
Willie Green 0 for 3 as the Blue Jays DH tonight. Graybeck batting .381. Runner on second, 2 outs as he takes strike 1.
You can see right away what the scouting report said. Feed him as many breaking balls as you can because he's a good fastball hitter.
They have used 11 designated hitters this season, trying to compensate for the loss of Jose Canseco. Nice play, backhanded by Vizquel. He throws out Graybeck. As we head to the bottom of the 7th with the Blue Jays leading by a run, let's take a look at what's coming your way tonight on Fox Sports News following the game. For that, we take you to the Fox Network Center.
This Fox Sports News Sports Break is brought to you by MGM Pictures' The Thomas Crown Affair. I'm Kevin Frazier of Fox Sports News with this sports break. Mark McGwire is now homered in every ballpark he's played in, hitting his 33rd homer of the year in the Cards' 6-5 win over the Reds. Bernie Williams hit his 15th homer of the year and drove in 2 runs to help lead the Yankees past the Devil Rays 5-4. News, scores, and highlights nightly on Fox Sports News, right here on Fox Sports Net.
Welcome back. Fox Sports Net Baseball Thursday from Cleveland. Indians trailing the Blue Jays 4-3. That was the final score last night. As we check out our Fram game summary, David Wells, the Blue Jays starter, allowed 2 runs in 5 innings. Charles Nagy, starting pitcher for the Indians, left after 6. Blue Jays 3 runs on 4 hits in the second, and Sean Green extended his hitting streak to 20 games. 7th inning stretch time in Cleveland, and the 3rd pitcher of the night for Toronto, Paul Quantrill, will make his 16th appearance. He started the year on the 60-day disabled list after a snowmobile accident in early January.
Yeah, he had a good year for them last year. He's got very good stuff. His ball really moves. He's got a tremendous sinker. You can see his numbers since he's come back, practically unhittable. Watched him the other night. They got into a little one-upmanship with the Braves after Delgado had slid into second base and kicked Brett Boone in the stomach. Quantrill ended up involved in that a little bit, but he has got nasty stuff.
ERA of 1.96 so far this season for Quantrill, as Vizquel fouls it into the stands back behind third base. 0-2. Omar has reached base all 3 plate appearances tonight. He's singled in the first, he's walked twice, and has scored a run. High and away, 1-2 on Vizquel, leading off for the Indians here in the 7th. Trailing by a run, Vizquel, Alomar, and Ramirez. 2-2. They are now in the 9th inning at Fenway. Orioles leading the Red Sox 5-2. That is good news for Toronto, looking to move into a tie for the wild card with the Red Sox in the American League. Hard smash. It gets by Homer Bush into center field. A base hit for Vizquel, his 2nd of the night.
Well, I was just talking about the kind of stuff that Quantrill has. He's got a good sinker and a good curveball, but the last 3 pitches he threw were all up in the strike zone. They were not good pitches. This last pitch was right in the middle of the plate. Look where it is, right in the middle of the plate. It's a bullet. We'll give you a little idea how they pitched him with his pitch strikes. They got the ball up in the zone. He is not a high ball pitcher. This is not where he wants to pitch. He wants to pitch down in the strike zone.
Now Roberto Alomar, who has 2 hits tonight. Singled in a run in the 5th. There goes Vizquel. Here's the throw from Fletcher. And this time he is out. Vizquel stole 3rd in the 3rd inning. He stole 2nd in the 5th. But he does not make it 3 for 3.
Well, Robbie Alomar, the hitter, tried to help him by pushing the bat out and then pulling it back to keep the catcher back. But Darren Fletcher came out throwing, and he threw a strike to second base. Wow, that is a bang-bang play. Quantrill gets the ball to the plate in a hurry. But on the replay, I'm not so sure he's out. His hand was in there, and I think the fans saw the replay. That's what angers the ball. It angers the umpires sometimes to have replays in the ballpark. If you have a bang-bang play like that, the fans can really get rolling.
Our Zima Indians recap for the night. 2 hits apiece for Vizquel and Alomar, and now Roberto is called out on strikes. First strikeout for Paul Quantrill. was 0 for 3. 2 groundouts, and he struck out in the 5th. In case you joined us late, Manny Ramirez on the original Indians lineup card was the DH. Alex Ramirez, the right fielder. However, Manny went out to play right in the 1st inning. We don't know whose fault it was. That forced the Indians to lose the designated hitter. And we are 7 innings complete from Jacobs Field. 4-3 Blue Jays. We welcome you back to Cleveland. FX, or I should say Fox Sports Net Baseball Thursday. 2 days shy of FX Baseball Saturday, with the Blue Jays leading the Indians 4-3, top of the 8th inning. Blue Jays looking to sweep this 2-game series before they head to Chicago for 4 games with the White Sox. Shawn Green doubled in the 6th, extending his hitting streak to 20 games. Now 1-1 on Green. Green, Delgado, and Fernandez for the Blue Jays here in the 8th. Ricardo Rincon working his 2nd inning in relief of Charles Nagy, who went 6. Two and one on Green. Now 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You know, we were talking before the game with Jim Fregosi about his outstanding right fielder, Shawn Green, and we asked him, does he remind you of anyone? And you can see where he ranks in the home run leaders as he punches out on this breaking ball from a left-hander. But he said the 2 names he mentioned were Willie Mays and Dave Parker. Wow. Now that's pretty good company. Now this is why the Indians got Rincon. See that breaking ball? Even though that's a hanger, it's because of the arm angle. See, it's right in the middle of the plate. That's not where he wants it, but because of the arm angle. And Shawn Green just misses. You can see with the pitch tracks where that thing is. That's right in the middle of the plate. But since it was thrown for a little bit from the side, it becomes more effective.
Carlos Delgado, 1 for 3 tonight. Delgado, the game-winning home run last night in the 9th inning off Mike Jackson to give the Blue Jays the 4-3 victory. His 25th of the season. Earlier tonight, he extended his hitting streak to 12 games. Well, the Orioles have beaten the Red Sox 5-2, so for the moment, the Blue Jays only a half game out in the wild card race, pending the outcome of this game as we check out the numbers on Delgado.
You know, the amazing thing when you see what he's done with a bat, he was originally a catcher. He was a catcher they brought through the system.
Fouled off, 2-2.
And they finally felt that he had to work so hard because he's a big guy. As we mentioned, he's 6'3", 225 pounds, that maybe it was taken away from his hitting ability. So then they decided that they would use him in another position.
Delgado goes down on strikes. So Rincon strikes out Green and Delgado consecutively. Well, this week on Fox Saturday Baseball, we'll put you in the action with sounds of the game as Sammy Sosa and the Cubs take on the Mets, plus other regional action. It all starts at 12:30 Eastern and Pacific with In the Zone on your local Fox station. Jeff, you will be down in Houston.
Now, I haven't seen the Padres this year, and they're, of course, red hot. I'm anxious to see them, and I have always enjoyed watching the Houston team play. They play with such character, you know, those Bagwell and Biggio and Larry Dierker's a great story, and good coaching staff, but it's in the last year of the Astrodome, so that'll be a good matchup.
Astros leading the National League Central. Here's Vizquel over to his left. A 1-2-3 eighth inning for Ricardo Rincon of the Indians. Indians have lost 5 of their last 7 games. They trail here 4-3 as we move to the bottom of the 8th. Mike Hargrove checking out his lineup card. That lineup card the center of much controversy earlier tonight.
Boy, is it ever. Believe me, I can tell. I know what thoughts are going through his head. We have got to win this game.
Especially with the pitcher's spot due up third this inning. Sexton leading off for the Indians. He's 1 for 3, a solo home run in the 4th, and he has also struck out twice. Sexton, then Thome, then a pinch hitter for Rincon, most likely David Justice.
Kind of a strange game when you think about it. We had a great matchup in Nagy and David Wells, and both of them out early. See, possibly, you know, Nagy's situation was a little different because he was in the order trying to hit. They were trying to make something happen. They had to pinch hit for him. And as you mentioned, Kenny, David Wells had 2 consecutive complete games. Whether that affected him or not tonight, left the game early.
In fact, this matches David Wells' second shortest outing of the season. Knocked out after 2 1/3 in Anaheim back in April. He went 5 innings tonight, but still stands to pick up the win unless the Indians come back to tie the game or win it, of course. 3 balls, 2 strikes on Sexton leading off the Indians' 8th.
I started to say I can remember, and I mentioned it earlier in the game, just being so aware and so concerned of messing up the lineup card. It can happen so easily.
Hard grounder off the glove of Batista into center field. The leadoff single by Sexton here in the 8th. And how ironic that the 2 names involved, Ramirez, the last name Ramirez, one who has been the right fielder 85 games this year. On the lineup card tonight, the other Ramirez is the right fielder with Manny scheduled to DH.
Really, it can happen easily to begin with. And I add that to the mix. Yeah, you're not kidding. As you see, Sexton's ball is a rocket into left center field. You see the big 6'7" kid get his arms extended and hit a bullet. And that brings Jim Fregosi to the mound, and he's going with another pitcher. And you talk about a big team. Graham Lloyd, 6'7", comes in to relieve.
Graham Lloyd, of course, the 3rd player, along with David Wells and Homer Bush, who came over from the Yankees in the Roger Clemens trade. Jim Fregosi's Blue Jays leading by a run with nobody out in the bottom of the 8th, with the potential tying run standing on first base in the person of Richie Sexton, and 32-year-old left-hander Graham Lloyd in to face Jim Thome, who takes strike 1.
Boy, this is a tough job for any left-handed hitter to try to hit Graham Lloyd. We were talking about his size, 6'7", 240 pounds. All arms and legs, and when he comes by way of first base sidearm, a left-handed hitter can have the ball behind his back to start with. And he started to become a big-time, big-game pitcher for the Yankees in '96 in the postseason. Appeared in 4 games in the World Series against Atlanta, just was unhittable. He can make left-handers look so bad.
Now 1-2 on Thome. Wells has outpitched Clemens, and then when you throw in both Homer Bush and Graham Lloyd, the Blue Jays so far have the edge in the deal.
I'd say those are the kind of deals you say, well, that's what deals are supposed to do, help both teams. And I think before it's over, Roger Clemens will get his act together too. Been a couple games he pitched very well as Lloyd just misses with that pitch, but Roger Clemens at times has really popped the ball. He's just been inconsistent, but here are the 3 guys that Toronto got for Roger: a starter, an outstanding reliever, and an everyday player.
Thome called out on strikes. 1 out in the Indians' 8th. Fox Sports Net second round coverage of the John Deere Classic from the Oakwood Country Club in Colville, Illinois. That's 4 Eastern, the John Deere Classic from Coal Valley, Illinois. Second round coverage. 4 Eastern tomorrow on Fox Sports Net. A three-way tie atop the leaderboard. So tune in tomorrow. Check local listings on Fox Sports Net. David Justice batting .307. His only pinch hit this year, a home run off the Twins' Rick Aguilera. Justice pinch hitting for the pitcher, Rincon.
David Justice, even though he's facing a real tough left-hander, has gotten some big long balls against left-handed pitchers that make a mistake against him.
Bounce to the right side, foul.
Now he's in deep trouble. He's in trouble because Graham Lloyd can throw those long arms from the side and try to miss by about 5 or 6 inches outside and try to make David go out and fish for the ball. Now, David is a very selective hitter. It's a very difficult job, though, as a pinch hitter to come off the bench and stay on. If you're a left-handed hitter, stay on a left-handed pitcher who's got big breaking balls.
Justice gets a piece of it. Knocks a couple of bulbs out of the scoreboard. Back behind third base. And the Indians line score. So the count remains 0-2. Enrique Wilson waiting on deck with 1 out and Sexton the runner on first. Justice up the middle, base hit. Sexton on his way to third. And the Indians have runners on the corners with only 1 out in the 8th inning.
That was a good at bat for David Justice. He was in deep trouble. He was down 0-2. And here's the pitch. Because he fouled off the 0-2 pitch off the scoreboard, it broke the light. They decided to come inside to keep him honest so they could go back out. And that's where the ball was. Now there's the first one. There's the one he swung and missed at. He was 0-2. Now there's another one that he fouls off. Actually, the yellow pitch that you see right there is the ball that he forced through the middle. That's the base hit he just got. It was after seeing that pitch that he fouled off away that they decided they better keep him honest to come inside so they could go away. And sure enough, a lot of times when you worry about setup pitches, you get hurt on the setup pitch.
First and third for the Indians. Enrique Wilson 1 for 3 tonight. Tying run on third base. Ball 1 to Wilson. One out. Graham Lloyd on the mound for the Blue Jays, who lead 4-3. Enrique Wilson at the plate. Sexton the runner on third. Justice on at first. 1-1.
Now you mentioned earlier, Kenny, last night in the 9th inning, the Indians loaded the bases with Manny Ramirez at the plate. And of course, this is a little different situation. But what you're trying to get, if you're the Blue Jays right here, is either a strikeout on a high fastball, something to run by him, or a ground ball and a sinker, or a strikeout on a low breaking ball.
2 balls, 1 strike.
One of the things you have to worry about if you are, there's Jeff Newman, the third base coach, giving signs. You worry about if you're Graham Lloyd and Darren Fletcher is don't make a mistake up out over the plate, because that's the ball that can get elevated to be driven to the outfield. If you're going to make a mistake, make it down.
Ground ball to the shortstop, Batista to push for 1, over to first, double play. The 6-4-3 double play, grounded into by Wilson. Ramirez last night grounded into the double play with 1 out in the 9th. And now we move to the 9th from Cleveland. Four runs, 7 hits for the Blue Jays, 3 runs, 10 hits for the Indians. And there is Enrique Wilson with runners on first and third, 1 out in the 8th. Our Georgia Pacific play of the game as Wilson grounds into the 6-4-3 double play.
You can see as you look at Enrique Wilson take his ground balls, it's preying on his mind. He knows what just happened. And look, he's even talking to himself. That's what happens when you have an opportunity to possibly break a game open or at least get your team even. And you hit a ball hard, but right at somebody.
And the new pitcher for the Indians is 28-year-old right-hander Paul Shuey. In to pitch the ninth, he will face Fletcher, Batista, and Cruz, the 6, 7, and 8 hitters. The bottom 4 in the Blue Jays batting order have driven in all 4 Toronto runs. 2 RBIs for Fletcher, who steps up to the plate. He's 1 for 2 with a double and a sacrifice fly. He's also scored a run. And remember, he also gunned down Vizquel, attempting to steal with nobody out in the 7th. The Zima Blue Jay recap. 2 hits for Tony Fernandez, raising his average. He started the day at .359. Sean Green extending his hitting streak to 20. Carlos Delgado extending his hitting streak to 12. 1 and 2 on Fletcher.
Yeah, just looking at Shuey's numbers, he's got big strikeout numbers for innings pitched. He's a guy that this ball club is the #1 pick out of the University of North Carolina, picked as a reliever. But he's had all sorts of injuries, mostly leg injuries.
He was the 2nd overall selection in the 1st round back in 1992 behind Phil Nevin.
It's taken Phil Nevin a while to make it, but he's made it now, and he's doing a heck of a job for San Diego. Bounced around a little bit as a Houston #1 pick years ago.
Then up to Detroit.
Yep. And then to the Angels. Sometimes it just takes a little longer, but Shuey, if he's healthy, he can throw. You can see he's a big, strong kid.
He strikes out Fletcher, leading off the Blue Jays' ninth.
Well, this is what the Indians have been looking for from Shuey for quite a while. He throws hard.
So 1 out in the 9th with Tony Batista heading to the plate. Coming up after the game on Fox Sports News, replacement umpires have been hired. Mark McGwire with a 9th inning home run in Cincinnati. And Lawrence Phillips chooses his team. That's all coming up after the game on Fox Sports News. Lawrence Phillips rumored to possibly sign with the 49ers, the Bills, or the Packers. And we will find out when the viewers do on Fox Sports News. Tony Batista, 1 for 3 with an RBI. He doubled in the 4th inning. One and 1 on Batista.
Well, we've talked about his stance enough tonight, but there's some theories with hitting coaches that they don't like hitters to hit from a dead stop. I think this might be the exaggeration, though. Look at the movement. He is definitely not at a dead stop. He's got everything going. But it works for him. You can see how he stays loose. See, but the amazing thing is how much he moves with his hands. The other part is you definitely can see from this position his heels are on the back line of the batter's box. I don't know how anybody, or if anybody, has ever started that far open.
Three and 1 on Batista.
Now look at what he does. This is the back line of that's the back part of the batter's box. Most other guys' front foot is right here. Well, he gets to that position eventually, but look how he starts.
Batista heads down to first. First walk issued by Paul Shuey with 1 out here in the 9th. So Jose Cruz Jr. will step in. He's 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. The executive producers of Fox Sports Net are Arthur Smith and Bill Borson. The coordinating producer for Baseball Thursday is Larry Myers. The head of field operations, Andrea Jenkins. And a tremendous job, as always, by our crew here in Cleveland. Producer Tom Hewitt, director Jeff Mitchell, along with Larry Rogers, Brian Moss, Steve Yoder, Gary Nicholas, Mitch Rubenstein, Tom Thomas, Renee George, John Wright, and the rest of our team here in Cleveland. 1 out, top of the 9th. Blue Jays leading the Indians 4-3. Toronto scoring 3 runs in the 2nd off Charles Nagy. Indians pulled to within 3-2. Blue Jays then took a 4-2 lead And we now stand Toronto 4, Cleveland 3. Batista the runner on first as Shuey throws over. 1-1 on the batter Cruz with Homer Bush waiting on deck. Looking ahead to the Indians' ninth. Diaz, Lofton, Vizquel. Now 1-2 on Jose Cruz.
Just wondering before that pitch whether Jim Fregosi was thinking about possibly putting on a hit and run. The only problem is when you put on a hit and run with a guy who has a big swing and tends to miss the ball, you might be running into an out. But the count was right, 1-1. But with that ball in the dirt, he was glad he wasn't running.
Now Shuey steps off.
And obviously the Indians threw over on the 1-1 count too, so they were wondering if maybe something were on. That's very often the throw over to first is not necessarily to pick somebody off. That's a bonus, but you're trying to see what they're doing.
Here's the second baseman Alomar. Quick throw to Tomey to get Cruz. Batista moves over to second.
Robbie Alomar, they'll take it for granted that was just another out. This was not just another out. This was a sensational play. There aren't a lot of second basemen would make this play and make it look like that. You had a man in the batter's box who could run, hitting left-handed on a chopper. Look at Alomar in a dead run. His foot slips in the dirt, and he makes the play, and he just gets him. That was a terrific play. The good ones are able to make the tough plays look easy.
He's won 7 consecutive Gold Glove awards. Homer Bush 1 for 2 with a run batted in. And Bush takes strike 1 from Shuey. 1-1.
Well, that last pitch is one of the reasons that Paul Shuey was so highly thought of by the Indians. He's got a nasty downer curveball, and he has a live fastball. You add those two coming out of the bullpen, and he also has other pitch. He can throw a slider, he can throw a changeup if he needs it. Basically, in his role coming out of the bullpen, that curveball and fastball might be enough. That's why a lot of guys go to the bullpen, because they don't have all the pitches of a starter, and you don't have to worry about messing around with some other pitches that aren't that good as they're real good pitches.
1-2 on Bush.
Phil Regan's a very good pitching coach too, and it looks like he's got some of these guys really getting the ball to sink. Phil was a teammate of mine with the Dodgers. There he is. He was nicknamed the Vulture. 1966, we won the National League pennant, went to the World Series, were swept by Baltimore, but Phil had won, I believe he won 16 games that year. Sandy Koufax nicknamed him the Vulture.
The Blue Jays have a vulture. John Frascatore, who came over in the trade from Arizona. He's won 5 games since the end of June, including 3 in 1 series against the Orioles.
Well, it's nice to have a guy there, whatever you call him. If you call him a vulture, a staff saver, or whatever.
There's the original vulture. Managed the Orioles a couple of years ago. 1-2 on Bush. 2 outs. Batista the runner on second. And Bush goes down on strikes. Second strikeout for Shuey. We head to the bottom of the ninth. The catcher Diaz will lead off, followed by Lofton, and then Vizquel, with the Indians trailing by a run. Back at Jacobs Field as we move to the bottom of the ninth, with the Blue Jays leading the Indians 4-3. And the former U.S. Olympian out of Clemson University, Jose Canseco, called him unhittable recently. Billy Koch, with 16 saves, comes out to pitch the ninth for Toronto.
Well, it wouldn't seem fair to go hit against a guy that can throw this hard. At times he's been clocked at over 100. He got the fans all excited up in Toronto when he hit 101 on their radar gun. He's got a hard slider to go with it, a big curveball, and believe it or not, he's had Tommy John transplant surgery in his elbow, and he still throws this hard. He's a big kid at 6'3", 218 pounds, and the ability to throw the ball that hard is impressive. The rest of the league has only hit 215 against him.
So Koch will face a pinch hitter. Jacob Cruz will hit for Einar Diaz, leading off the ninth, followed by Kenny Lofton and Omar Vizquel. Cruz batting .282, 0 for 6 as a pinch hitter. Ball one. Nope, check that. Strike one. A bit of a late call from Rocky Rowe. 0-1 on the pinch hitter Cruz. Cruz gets a piece of it. 0-2. So the Indians, should they tie this game, should we go into extra innings down to just one backup, and he will have to come in and catch Pat Borders. They were unable to use Alex Ramirez tonight. One away.
Well, that's a foul tip on a hanging breaking ball, but it hits Jacob Cruz's bat, and somehow Darren Fletcher caught the ball. This is not a good pitch, but look, see, it's a big breaking ball. Boy, I'll tell you what, that's a tough ball there. That doesn't even look like it's anywhere near the bat. Let's take a look at this. You can see the ball's inside. The big sweeping breaking ball, but it didn't look like it was near the bat, but that's why you don't umpire from up here.
10th strikeout by the Blue Jays staff. Kenny Lofton takes a strike. Tough night for Lofton, 0 for 4. Struck out his last time up. For the Blue Jays, Darren Fletcher has driven in 2 of their 4 runs. RBIs for Batista and Homer Bush. 3 runs on 4 hits in the second off Charles Nagy.
Just watching Billy Koch throw the last 2 pitches. The pitch before the last one was 99 miles an hour. That was a 4-seam high rider right up in the strike zone. That last one was a 2-seamer that sunk, and all that was 93. He's a big, strong kid. You see these big, broad shoulders and big, strong neck. He can really get the ball up there, and it's nice, smooth delivery.
The 1-2 to Lofton, high and tight, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That's that same curveball he just was able to get a strikeout with. Well, they've had some pretty good closers. Tom Henke, Dwayne Ward.
2 up, 2 down, 2 strikeouts for Koch.
You do not have much chance or much time to make a decision here. Here's the pitch. You know, he threw this thing so hard. He had a funny spin on this ball. The ball sunk just a little bit. 94 miles an hour, but the ball had action. It was moving downward.
Omar Vizquel with a ground ball. Batista behind second, makes the throw, and that will do it. So the Toronto Blue Jays complete a 2-game sweep of the Indians. Blue Jays win their 6th consecutive game, while the Indians have dropped to 2-6 in their last 8. And the Blue Jays have pulled into a tie with the Boston Red Sox for the wild card in the American League. David Wells, the winner. He is now 11-6. Charles Nagy, the loser. He is also 11-6. Save number 17 for Billy Koch with a 1-2-3 ninth.
Well, we were talking in our open at the red-hot team in Major League Baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays. You can see why. They're doing the little things. They haven't beaten themselves. They've got some good pitching and a very strong bullpen. Interesting club.
So that's it from Jacobs Field, where the Blue Jays hang on and defeat the Indians by the score of 4-3. Tune in for Fox Saturday Baseball. The Cubs take on the Mets, plus other regional action. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern and Pacific within the zone. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. Then move over to FX Baseball Saturday night. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, 10 p.m. Eastern on FX. Baseball Thursday continues in 2 weeks here on Fox Sports Net. You'll see the Cardinals and the Padres or the Yankees and the Mariners. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. For Jeff Torborg and our entire crew, Kenny Albert saying so long. Fox Sports News Prime Time is next in many areas. For everyone else, stay with us. We'll be right back.